Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Thursday, September 18th. We are live, and oh my, have we had a pretty crazy Thursday morning. We got a bunch of things that have broke in terms of news that we will be talking about. The biggest one, as is the title of the stream, Nvidia taking a $5 billion stake in Intel. Pretty massive news. Intel's up 32% in the pre-markets. Did not expect to see that news coming in, but it did come in. And so we'll be talking about that, the implications of that. Palantir got their first $1 billion international deal yesterday from the United Kingdom. We'll be talking about that. Meta had one of their biggest product events of 2025 last night. The event was not the best. You had multiple failed demos on stage showcasing their glasses, but the product was pretty cool. And so we'll be talking about that as well. And then outside of all of the updates and news we have this morning, I mean, if you've taken a look at your portfolio at all this morning, the market likes rate cuts. They really like rate cuts. Robinhood, 30 cents away from 121. Tesla broke 435, right now at 429. Nvidia, obviously based on the Intel news, that's up at 175. Grab at 615. Google at 252. SoFi, 40 cents away from 28. AMD is down about 4.5%. That's because of Nvidia and Intel. We'll talk about that in a bit. S&P, new all-time high, 663. Intel, 30% on the day. It's been a while since we've seen Intel back in the 30s, but it is back in the 30s. And BMNR, which last night was starting to move after hours, continuing that move, 59.65. It did touch 60 for a little bit. And that one is also green by about 5% in the pre-markets. I mean, you've got pretty much everything that's making move. Iran is up. DLO is up. Walmart, 52-week highs. IWM, small caps catching a bid. PayPal is up. They signed a big partnership with Google yesterday that we'll talk about. Salesforce is up about 1%. You got Google right here again at 250. Reddit's at 272. This thing was at 230 last week. It was at 100 2 months ago. Amazon, 233. Meta, 780. I mean, it seems like the rate cuts were bullish. And there was a lot of talk on how the rate cuts could be bearish. And I think there's a strong argument to at least acknowledge that perspective. But based on how the pre-markets are reacting as we head into the last couple of weeks of September, the market wanted 25 bips. We got 25 bips. It was a rather dovish 25 bips. And we'll talk about how Jay Powell kind of communicated his thesis. The kind of core argument that I got from it is that he is more concerned about the labor market, less concerned about inflation, which is why the market is starting to feel like there's a pathway for more rate cuts into the future. And that is why it seems like the market's rallying in the pre-markets. So not too bad. Not too bad at all. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Dude, I did not expect this NVIDIA news. I woke up and I was like, what? Really? That's happening? But that is happening. And we are going to get into it. Matthew, thank you for the $20 super chat. It is not my birthday, although I appreciate the constant happy birthdays. My birthday is in October 27th, not today. But thank you for the super chat and thank you for being here. Yes, we'll talk about the Palantir deal in a bit as well. We talked a decent amount about that Palantir deal on the market close yesterday when the news broke while Jay Powell was speaking. So we'll get deeper into that deal. But it is a pretty big freaking deal, dude. $1 billion international for the first time in the UK. So we'll go deeper into that and talk about the implications. Palantir stock right here, 170.44. That's up 1.2%. Okay, I think let's start off with the first news of the day, though, to get into everything that we've got. And this has a bunch of implications for all the semi names, including AMD, which is Nvidia. So what is going on? Nvidia is taking a $5 billion stake. Yes, Nvidia also got some UK deals that we'll talk about in a second as well. Into Intel. Nvidia took a $5 billion stake into Intel. It's kind of a simple argument in the press release that they outlined. Essentially, they're saying, hey, we are going to team up to build. This is what the CEO said. We are excited to team up with my good friend Jensen to jointly develop multiple generations of custom data centers and PC products. Our collaborations bring together the best of Intel and NVIDIA to benefit customers and shows how vital x86 architecture and NVLink will be in shaping the future of AI infrastructure and personal computing. AKA, they're going to work together to make more chips and architecture for GPUs, CPUs, and all of the different AI infrastructure that is needed across the board when it comes to computing. Now, that is kind of the politically correct way to explain what is going on with this announcement today. I think what really happened, this pure speculation on my part, so take it or leave it in terms of the analysis here. I think Trump was on the plane with Jensen on the way to the UK, and he said, hey, man, I just bought $9 billion of this shit. I'm going to need you to help pump my bags, or else you're not shipping any of these Blackwell chips to China. And I think Jensen saw the 60 billion they had in cash and was like, well, we don't really need this extra 5 billion. And if we bought our stock at $4 trillion of valuation, that's not really going to help the float. It's not going to make the stock that much more attractive. I might as well just go along with what Trump is doing as well. So now Trump is up 36% on his stake as of this morning. You could call it the art of the deal. And Jensen has now taken a very favorable position in Intel. I mean, I don't think Nvidia loves Intel. I don't think they care about Intel. Intel was in the Dow Jones last year. Nvidia kicked them out. I mean, Intel, it's not a dead company or anything. It's just not one of the most exciting names, which is why the stock has been dead. And obviously, AMD and Nvidia have been taking a lot of market share. But I think Trump really believes that the national security of building chips in the country is what matters. I think Jensen believes that as well, but Jensen just doesn't have the supply chains or ecosystem to actually build chips in the United States. So this 5 billion is kind of a nod to Trump in terms of an endorsement of his overall philosophy and ethos, which I personally do agree with, around national security and building chips in the United States. And this $5 billion investment hopefully will help Intel continue to do that. And for Nvidia, it's a nothing burger, right? It's like, all right, 5 billion here. Maybe it's better than buying back our own stock for now. And if Intel goes up even 10, 15% over the next coming years, that's good for Nvidia's stake. Also, Nvidia got their shares at $23.38. So Nvidia is also up about 30% on their stake, which is pretty cool. Yeah, $23.28 a share. So I think Trump got it at $21.40. Nvidia got it a couple bucks higher. SoftBank also made a $2 billion investment around that $21, $22 range earlier this year. So you got a lot of big players, whether it's a SoftBank, whether it's an Nvidia, whether it's a Trump administration, that are putting money into Intel and keeping this bad boy alive. And there you go. That's what we got. Now, from an ethical perspective, government mixing politics with business. I mean, dude, at this point, after the Trump meme coin came out, I don't even know how to analyze that. Like, as soon as the president of the United States launched the meme coin, I think all bets were off the table. So this seems rather tame compared to, the meme coin stuff we saw earlier in the year. And it is what it is. This is the new administration, and this is kind of how it's playing out. But that is the investment we have into Intel. Now, AMD was actually below 150 about 30 minutes ago. Right now at 151. I don't really think this is bearish AMD. You got some people today saying, oh, this is horrible for AMD because they were already losing certain types of market share to NVIDIA and Intel, and now they're both partnering together. I just think this is a gut algorithmic reaction to the market saying, oh, NVIDIA, Intel, that's exciting. Let's rotate some of our money versus allocating heavier to AMD. And then obviously AMD's growth is just not as good as NVIDIA. It's way better than Intel, not as good as NVIDIA from a data center perspective. And that's why maybe the market's selling it off a bit. I don't think this is a sell NVIDIA. I don't, or sell AMD. I don't necessarily know enough about AMD to be like, this is a buy, but I would make a pretty decent bet that in the next 3-4 years, if NVIDIA is higher, AMD is much higher than 150. And I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world to buy on this dip. But nonetheless, you do have some of these semiconductor names that are selling off a little bit based on this news. Overall, very, very bullish for NVIDIA. Wow, ASML, 6% up in the pre-markets, crossing 932. That's incredible. This thing, you have to have a lot of conviction for it. In the year, went from 1,000 to 800, then 850 down to, 680. And then in April, it was actually at 560. Now back at 930. So you are seeing some of these names, especially names that are very vital to the semiconductor ecosystem in lithography like ASML, catching their groove. And that's what's making some momentum. Let's look at some of the other names. Dell right here, that's up about 1.2%. SMCI, that's up a little bit as well. And then Broadcom, how's that one doing? That one is up 1.54%. All right, so the major winners today on this semiconductor news are NVIDIA, that's up 2.6%, and then Intel, which is up 30%. Now, one thing about Intel as well that's important is, remember on Wall Street Bets, there was a junior in college who took his entire $700,000 inheritance from his grandmother and dumped it into Intel at 30 a share. He was down basically, I think at the most, 250 to 300 grand off that 800 for the majority of the year. He did this back in August of 2024. He is finally green. His average is $30.45, unless he's bought more in DC8 over the past couple of years or past couple of months. And stock's at 32. He's green. He could sell today for a profit. And to me, it just the sort of thesis here is like the stock market's incredible. The stock, like there's not many businesses where you can make that bad of a directional bet and just give it 9 months and it recovers. I mean, there's just not many places where you can do that. But stock market is where you can. And so obviously pretty incredible stuff for him. And I hope he puts an update on Wall Street Bets. It would be awesome to just kind of see the full circle moment of this. But yeah, he is back to being a big green. after doing the most Wall Street bets thing ever, taking my grandmother's inheritance and putting it into Intel. It is what it is. It seems like he is green now. So that is the news we have this morning on Intel and Nvidia, and we're going to see if Intel continues to pump throughout the rest of the day, and we'll keep going from there. A lot of you guys saying no way he held. Maybe he did though. Maybe he did. Triple V, thank you for the $200 super chat, and thank you for being here. I said this yesterday on the market close, but we have an update from our good friend Triple V. For those that are new to the channel, he is just a friend of mine, and I met him through a mutual friend, become a mentor, super cool guy, very successful, came to America with nothing from Russia and just built a business on his own. Folks, he has 4.5 million shares of Grab now. He has 4.5 million shares of Grab. So he doubled down from 590 to 6. He initially got in, I think, at around 470. His average is 554, and he's in pretty heavy. So remember that day where you guys were like, call Triple V, he can get us over 6. And I was like, yeah, if I call him, he might be degen enough to actually do that. I didn't call him. And yesterday I get a screenshot of like, oh, I guess you were buying that day when we needed to get above 6. And so he helped us out. So there you go. Grab right there at 615. Now, one interesting thing about Grab is yesterday Forbes actually covered Grab for the first time in 4 years. I was quite surprised by the fact that you had a mainstream media article come out. Again, they have not talked about this company literally in 4 to 5 years. And the title was Grab, the next stock to potentially 2X. And it actually does some decent analysis about their free cash flow, revenue growth, et cetera, going into the next couple of years. So very nice to see it get some more momentum. Again, Grab, it had 4 days in a row of 100 million shares traded, another $6 close once again on Grab for the 4th day in a row. If that can continue, then I think that's very good momentum. And obviously with rates coming down and the growth being as strong as it is for Grab and really reaccelerating, which is what the street's getting excited about, that is why we're likely seeing some of this momentum. Okay, so let's talk about rate cuts, because that is obviously helping a lot of what's going on right now in the pre-markets. A couple clips of Jay Powell talking about it yesterday and how he thinks we'll eventually get these rates to come down and stay conducive with the labor market and inflation.
Schneider with Reuters. So as you mentioned a minute ago, some margins of the job market would suggest that the slide's already happening. A black unemployment rate in August was above 7%, declining work week, difficulty among college graduates finding work, rising youth unemployment. Why do you think a 1/4 percentage point now is going to arrest that?
Well, I didn't say that I thought a 1/4 point would make a huge difference to the economy, but you've got to look at the whole path of rates, right? And the market's has already been baking in expectations. I mean, our market works through expectations, right? So I think our policy path really does matter. And I think it's important that we use our tools to support the labor market when we do see signs like that. I did mention that, you see minorities, unemployment going up, you see younger people who are more vulnerable economically, more susceptible to economic cycles. That's one of the reasons, in addition to just overall lower payroll job creation, that shows you that at the margin, the labor market is weakening. I would also point to labor force participation. Some part of the significant decline in labor force participation over the last year has probably been cyclical in nature rather than just the usual aging process. So we put all those together and we see that the labor market is softening and we don't need it to soften anymore, don't want it to. So we use our tools and,
That's his take. That's his take. The labor market is softening. They don't want it to soften any more than it is. Therefore, they're creating a cushion via these rate cuts. And based on what Jay Powell's talking about, take a look at this chart right here in the business section of the New York Times. As you can see right here, more college graduates are unemployed longer. And Jay Powell goes further to talk about that. A lot of people that are graduating are not getting a job. And so the people that are getting fired are now joining the job-seeking workforce with the people that just graduated. So if the college graduates, which have all these amazing fancy degrees, can't find a job, largely because of AI, and you have more unemployment by companies laying off people because they don't need those people anymore, given the progress on AI, this can turn into a really ugly situation unless you cut rates. Because if you cut rates, at least it creates a cushion. It doesn't solve the sort of existential problem of AI taking away jobs. And I think that's a more philosophical issue that society is going to have to come to grip with over the next coming years. But at least it softens the blow so that someone says, well, my cost of capital is going down. I was thinking of firing some employees, but I don't really need to. And maybe you can revert some of that firing to actually keep the labor force held up until we kind of figure out what to do with the lack of jobs that are going to be needed via AI. And so it makes sense that ultimately he's cutting rates. And I think the market is interpreting that as positive, because the issue around jobs, eventually they'll deal with in the future, but at least the market can say, oh, there is a path to more rate cuts. The market is priced for rate cuts. Rate cuts are obviously good for growth stocks. The median perspective now on rates this year getting cut is 75 basis points versus 50. The average used to be 50. Now it's up another 25 basis points. A lot of people think it might end up being 100. If it's at least 75, I think the market will be excited. And it's important to kind of see that Jay Powell have that same mindset as well. Yes, this is a real newspaper. I don't buy newspapers, but downstairs they get the Wall Street Journal and New York Times delivered to them. And I was like, can I just take this for free? He was like, yeah, bro, no one else takes it. I was like, okay, so there you go. So I get to read a physical newspaper every single day. No, I did not buy the newspaper. Dude, I bought the Wall Street Journal like a year ago and it was like $7. Like, I'm not paying $7. Like, it really is a waste of trees, bro. This is just going to go in the trash. And the news is relevant for 4 hours. Like, I don't understand why we are printing papers when this news is irrelevant in literally 4 hours and it's going to go in the trash. Like, it is such a waste of paper, but it gets delivered for free. So I'm like, all right, we might as well read it. So yeah, I'll be showing more charts and stuff from the business section of these papers on the streams. But as a result of that, I think that's why the S&P is moving. The S&P is moving based on the idea that they know the labor market is not necessarily in trouble, but it could become in trouble. And that is enough of a reason for Jay Powell to cut. Now, the whole tariff debacle of like, oh, well, tariffs are going to be inflationary, this and that. Jay Powell pretty much shut that down yesterday. Jay Powell pretty much said, well, it's not. I mean, he didn't admit he was wrong, but he kind of admitted that it's just not that big of a deal. The tariffs were a bit one time. He said there could be more inflation, but given some of the stuff that we've seen over the past weeks in regards to PPI, CPI, it's likely not going to be that inflationary. And as a result, looks like the market is able to move on. Here's Kevin Hassett, one of the National Economic Council directors, also one of 3 people that could be the next Fed chair. Here are his thoughts this morning on why the Fed cutting by 25 bips was a good idea.
Broad consensus, and I think that's a good first step in the right direction of much lower rates.
Kevin, do you want the job still? I mean, would you temper anything you're saying right now based on the possibility of you being the next Fed chair? Just
the only thing I could promise you, Joe, is that I do my job here as director of National Economic Council as best as I can every day. And when you and I are interviewed, I'm not thinking ahead to some future job or anything. I'm thinking about, as director of the National Economic Council, what can I do to communicate to the American people the best about what we're working on today?
You acknowledge there's some cross currents, or at least some puzzling things in trying to gauge the current economy or the environment that we're in right now. I asked Leisman, tongue in cheek, whether Jay Powell said, oh, by the way, we've moved the inflation target to 3%, because that's where we are. And if you're cutting, and we're 2.9, whatever, if you're cutting it, I know labor suddenly in that picture has gotten a little bit cloudy, but we are not we're 50% above the 2% target for inflation.
Right. Well, it depends on whether you look at the 2 or 3 month or 7 month trends, right? So we've gone from about 3.9 to about 2.5 over 7 month averages, and we've done worse than that over the last 3 months. At the same time, when we're looking at the economic data, really it's through the roof. We've had 3.3% growth for the second quarter. GDP now is north of 3. And the way to think about the upside risks, Joe, is that we just got these retail sales data year over year. Nominal retail sales in the control group, which is what matters for GDP, was up 6%. So depending on what you think inflation is, that means that you're really looking at close to 4% GDP growth. And so, yeah, the cross current would be that it looks like we're having a boom like we did in the first term, where there's really, really high economic growth and not out of control inflation.
And that is why Jay Powell is likely thinking they're not cutting into stagflation, which was some of the concerns that a lot of people had, because you've got inflation that is subdued and you've got growth that is growing strong. Obviously, Q2 earnings were incredible. If Q3 earnings replicates that, then that's going to be a good thing. And that means if there's any weakness in the economy, which we have definitive evidence that there is weakness in the labor market, that is why you end up cutting rates. So ultimately it makes sense. And the market so far is seeming to say that they can understand why the Fed has cut rates. Palantir. So we got the first $1 billion contract with the UK's Ministry of Defense. Now, Palantir has had a very long relationship with the UK's Ministry of Defense. dating back to basically 5 years ago. This is the first time, based on Trump's visit, a lot of companies have been investing in the UK, Salesforce, Nvidia, Microsoft doing about 42 billion in quantum and AI stuff. By the way, quantum absolutely exploded yesterday, so that was doing very well. Now Palantir gets a $1 billion contract with the UK MOD to supply military AI technology. This deal is 10 times bigger than any previous Palantir contract with the UK government. Palantir got the NHS deal back in 2023. No one thought they would get it. They were able to beat other software vendors. They showed how they could navigate the complexities of the UK's healthcare system. That was a massive deal. And now they're only deepening the relationship with the UK as once again, they continue to prove their software is the AI operating system of the West. So they're also going to be investing about $2 billion over the next 5 years into the United Kingdom. I think their largest headquarters outside of DC is in the UK. So that makes sense that they're going to be investing more in the UK. But it's bullish, dude. It's really bullish. I mean, the idea of international growth has been the only red flag people can find on Palantir earnings. And although the UK is not as diversified from their international revenue sources of growth, because the UK is their second largest customer after the United States, it is a very big international deal. And when a company gets these types of international deals, you probably have a lot of other countries in Europe and Asia that are looking at this deal saying, okay, it's not just the US that wants their technology, it's another country. And that country, although it shares a lot of the values that the US has, maybe we should start really thinking of a company like Palantir instead of trying to build it our own or source it from our internal country tech companies that might just not be able to create the same type of software that Palantir creates. So I thought that was very bullish. You kind of need these types of deals. I think these types of deals are going to compound in South Korea and Japan and all these other countries across the world that are likely going to need this type of military AI technology. And the more Palantir gets intertwined with the government of a country, the easier it is for other defense contractors and commercial companies like Babcock, which they also extended their partnership with Palantir. That's another UK defense contractor 5 days ago, to begin working with Palantir. Because if you're working with the Department of Defense, or the Department of War, or Ministry of Defense inside of a country, all the sub-defense contractors and sub-vendors have a better chance of working with you because now you're intertwined in terms of the entire ecosystem. And I think that's really the S-curve growth on Japan and South Korea and all these other countries that have already like got some contracts with Palantir for the government. Cart made those remarks a couple of quarters ago, but not full-on billion-dollar contracts like the UK just signed yesterday, which I think is going to be very, very bullish for Palantir going into the future. That stock right here at 169.81, up about 1% in the pre-markets. Okay, let's talk about Meta and what's going on with them. So if you were live with me last night, we watched the Meta keynote, and let's just say it didn't go that well. Here are 2 demos that unfortunately didn't work in front of everybody.
Make a Korean-inspired steak sauce using soy sauce, sesame oil.
What do I do first? What do I do first?
You've already combined the base ingredients, so now grate a pear to add to the sauce.
What do I do first?
You've already combined the base ingredients, so now grate the pear and gently combine it with the base sauce.
All right, I think the Wi-Fi might be messed up. Sorry, back to you, Mark.
It's all good. You know what? It's all good. It's the irony of the whole thing is that you spend years making technology and then the Wi-Fi at the day kind of catches you. All right.
If anyone knows about Wi-Fi messing up, it would be me. So that was the first one. And we were like, all right, whatever. You know, there's a mistake. It is what it is. I don't know if it was actually the Wi-Fi or if it was the AI demo just not working, but it's okay. Whatever, right? Like companies make mistakes. It's not that big of a deal. Then you have this one, like 5 minutes after that.
Pause WhatsApp video call.
There we go. Uh-oh. Well, let's see what happened there. That's too bad. I don't know what happened. Maybe Buzz can try calling me again. All right. Well, I got a missed video call. Okay, there's the actual video call. All right. I'm just going to pick that up with my neural band. This is, you know, it happens. Yeah, let's, what do you think? Let's just go ahead and.
Pause WhatsApp video call.
Let's go for a 4th. Try it again. I keep on messing this up. And if not, then we'll go for the less fun option. Okay. I don't know what to tell you guys. All right. We're going to have Buzz come out here, and we're just going to go to the next thing that I wanted to show and hope that will work. All right.
Unfortunately, the next thing ended up being a 25-minute podcast with James Cameron, talking about like the experiences of watching a movie on the headset. And it kind of just felt like a promo for the new Avatar movie that was coming out, because it was one of those things where you're like, why would you have a 25-minute interview with this guy on a live stage in front of all these people when, like, in reality, at the end of the day, he was just promoting his movie. So it was not a good event, guys. That at its core, I think objectively anyone can analyze it was not a good event. Now, the stock does not deserve to be down on this. The stock does, like, I don't think it deserves to be down 5 or 10%. Like, none of this actually affects Meta's earnings or free cash flow or anything like that. But it was a bad event, and it is what it is. And I uniquely felt bad for Zucks, because you could tell after the first 2 demos fail, he was off his game. And I've been in that situation before where you're doing a stream and then, you make a mistake and then you kind of just like, you're a little off. You're not as excited anymore. Like, it kind of messes up with your mental. I make a joke. None of you guys laugh. It kind of messes with my, self-confidence, and I get insecure. And then the rest of the analysis kind of sucks throughout the rest of the show. So like I've been in that position where you're live in front of a lot of people and it's just like you messed up and now you can't stop thinking about that. But like one mess up is okay. There were 2 messes. See, I just messed up on the plural term of messing up. You had 2 mistakes. And then the rest of the presentation just felt bland and awkward. And it was just like he was getting through the PowerPoints just really quick. He didn't really care about going through it. And it just didn't end up being a good presentation. So I have a lot of sympathy for Zucks, because when you're live in front of that many people and you make a mistake, it really messes with your mental. And we could tell in the corresponding announcements, there was no excitement. There was no energy. And Zucks was probably just thinking, get me off stage. This is stupid. This is a mess up. How do we freaking have a $2 trillion company that can't get the Wi-Fi right? And you could tell he was pissed. So it happens to the best of us. And, my Wi-Fi could mess up in a bunch of people and it could be really annoying. And then you could have a $2 trillion company where the Wi-Fi messes up allegedly in a bunch of people and it could be really annoying. The kind of core takeaway for me, besides the actual progress of the event, is the glasses themselves look pretty cool. It looks like there are some use cases. However, I don't know if the use cases are enough to dethrone the phone. I mean, there's this neural band you have to wear, which is kind of like handling some of the compute with the glasses, which is a pretty interesting way of thinking of the glasses, because not all the compute is happening on the glasses themselves, which is a good idea. But then again, we couldn't really see the demos actually show off any of the products. So it was a little hard to see kind of how it would play out. And then on top of that, I think the biggest problem is anything they were showing that you could do on the glasses, you could easily do on your phone, whether it's take pictures or save a contact. And the way you can do it on your phone is just way better, way easier, way clearer, more high definition than the way you would do it on the glasses. And so I think that was kind of the biggest issue with what we had with Meta. And I think Apple's looking at that. Apple stock right here in the pre-markets right there at 239. And they're thinking, hey, how can we make this a way better experience? How can we introduce this in a way better way? How can we charge a better premium for this? I mean, they're charging $800. Apple will probably charge $1,500 for a much better, more unified experience within their ecosystem. And I think that's what Apple's trying to figure out. Bitcoin right here, 117, getting a little bit of love. We'll talk about some of the crypto news that came out yesterday via the SEC, which is why all of the cryptocurrencies are maintaining some momentum. Ethereum right there at 4,500. But that is pretty much what happened on Meta's event. Yeah, 2 messes up. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. And then the final demo, they were showing their new collaboration with Oakley, and Meta was like, hey, we created these glasses that are great for you to like track your health and all this stuff when you're running, and like we're going to show you a demo. And then the demo was not a demo. It was just all of these guys running at the end of the event. And it was the most cringe thing ever. I mean, you couldn't even explain how cringe it was. At the end of the event, as you can see right here, they all just started running. And this was the demo. And it's like, there's no way this is the demo. Like, we need to see what's happening inside of the glasses, right? Like you want to see your heartbeat, your health, all that stuff in the glasses. And they're like, all right, fine. This Diplo, they got to DJ here to go do this. And I don't know if this was actually what they planned or they realized the demo wasn't working. They were like, let's just not show the inside of the glasses. Let's just show Zuck's running. It was weird, bro. It was very, very weird. But that's how the final demo ended up playing out. So nothing worked. Nothing worked. And again, I have a lot of sympathy for Zucks because it's tough being live and stuff doesn't work. But you could tell he was pissed off. You can tell he was very, very pissed off. And ultimately, we're going to see how the market reacts to it. So I think the glasses will sell. I don't know how aggressively they're going to sell. I still am not a full believer in the form factor. I've been very honest about that for the past couple of years. I just don't think a lot of people will give up their phone for glasses. Nothing I saw in that presentation even got me closer to becoming a bigger believer that glasses are the next form factor of computing. But I think as they keep innovating on it, then there will likely be some more progress that gets people to be excited. So that's what we got in the context of Meta. And that's what happened yesterday. Yeah, they were running from the event. They were running from the two messes up in the event. And they were trying to get out of there. Why do you have sympathy for a billionaire? I'm not even thinking of him as a billionaire, dude. I'm just thinking of him as a human being in a presentation. I've done many presentations in my life, whether it was in my debate career or whether it's a live stream every morning. And, as a human being, you can tell when someone messes up and they're a little flustered and you can tell they're just like annoyed and they probably put a lot of work into it. It didn't just work out. It is what it is. It happens. And so I don't think Meta stock should be affected by this, but the event itself was just not good. And we're going to have to see how the product ultimately scales throughout the rest of the year. Bitcoin right here, 117. Okay, so why is Bitcoin up? A couple of reasons. The SEC approved crypto ETFs to be listed yesterday with a certain condition. The SEC has approved generic listing standards, clearing the way for spot crypto ETFs to launch, essentially allowing an accelerated approval process of different rule changes to adopt more generic listing standards for commodity-based trust shares, aka ETFs that buy spot crypto and then turn it into an entire ETF, which is bullish. On top of that, you had this statue of Trump that a crypto company paid for to put in front of the Capitol. This is a real thing. This is not fake. And it's a golden statue of Trump. It's obviously not real gold that they put in front of the Capitol holding a Bitcoin. Hard to be a little bearish when when you're seeing some of that play out. But in general, the ability for ETFs to be listed without having to go through too many regulatory procedures when they're spot crypto ETFs seems to be the reason why crypto is pumping. And that's why it's getting some momentum. Now, BMNR, I don't really know why BMNR is taking off as much. BMNR right here, 59.16, because Ethereum is not going up as much. So BMNR is kind of expanding their premium right here. I would imagine that the level of inflows that are coming into BMNR right now are gigantic because, again, it's trading at a aggressive MNAV now in the past couple of days compared to the Ethereum on the balance sheet. And the ability for them to buy a lot more Ethereum, this is the benefit of having Tom Lee, right? He's able to raise capital, able to get people to buy the stock. You're able to take that money and then dilute in an accretive way. Their next Ethereum purchase might be massive. So they have 2.1 million Ethereum. I mean, if that ends up at like 2.5 over the coming weeks, then again, they haven't even started staking yet. It really does feel like this is going to be one of the more exciting risk rewards if Ethereum can hold up and as the broader blockchain on Ethereum continues. Yeah, my $60 covered calls are absolutely toast. I mean, I've been looking at a lot of different options on rolling this. One idea I have, which I'm not sold on yet, but I'm going to see, rolling it to January 27, so rolling it a year out and going from 60 to 105. And I would collect about $60,000 of premium by doing that. And so I would be really realistically selling at around 125-ish is the math ends up breaking out to. And if I have to sell my shares at 105, bro, I'm not that upset about it. And realistically, if the thing blows past 105, I can just roll from January 2027 to further out and increase that strike price. But I didn't get into it thinking that this was going to be a double. I thought like, this might be a nice little trade, but it's turning into like a real thesis. And so, yeah, that might be one thing that I do, but we got to see. It's also very volatile, dude. I think the rate cuts are bullish, but you also can't get that excited because it could fall as easily as it goes up, especially because it is trading at an accelerated MNAV. And so I think we got to give this time. My break even is 68. So I think I might also give it some time until it gets above that break even to really decide if I want to roll. Amit, I had BMNR 919.65 covered calls and rolled it out to 926.80 the other day. That's scary. Yeah, I mean, look, the fact that the 65s could be challenged tomorrow is kind of wild. Now, tomorrow also is the quad witching day. So that's one thing that could, affect the entire market that we have to think about. Bitfarms right here up 11% in the pre-markets, the latest company to turn from a Bitcoin miner into a data center play. That one's getting some love right here. But that is also one of the reasons you have to be a little careful of some of these covered calls as well. BMNR was at 70 a while ago. Now that seems like a little bit that seems like it was way too much hype when it got to 70 because we didn't, Bitmine did not have the amount of Ethereum that it has today when it got to 70. So the question becomes, if it were to get to 70 now with like a relatively small increase in ETH from now until when it gets to 70, maybe that's also not justified and that could be too much hype. So you got to see. These things are very volatile. The good thing is the more liquid it gets, the more the market is able to more accurately price what the MNAV should be. This is kind of what's happened with MicroStrategy over time. It's just Saylor did so much dilution that it's kind of been played out. And so I think over time, the market's going to have a better understanding of it. But, to say this could be an under by the end of the year, I know Chris says there's a chance. I mean, who knows, dude? If Ethereum breaks 75, 8,000 by end of year, even like 65, 7,000, maybe there's a world in which that happens. AppLovin right here, 617. This one continues its momentum. Got into the S&P. This thing was at 350 about 5 weeks ago. Now it's at 617, doing incredible. Microsoft right here at 510. And then you got Hoodie with the 120 break. This is the third time Hoodie broke over 120. I hope this continues and it normalizes above 120. We know the Q3 earnings are going to be massive. We know they've had a bunch of product announcements since the Hood Summit, Robin Adventures, all the stuff that they introduced. And so holding 120 to me doesn't seem crazy. We just got to see if there's a chance that they can get there. And that's what we got on Hood. Now, PayPal and Google, again, big partnership yesterday. Google and PayPal forged a multi-year partnership to revolutionize commerce. Basically, Google bringing in a bunch of AI tools and their ecosystem on delivering those AI features in the payment space. And they did this with a bunch of other companies, but they put out a press release fully with PayPal. Again, we got a mirror saying PayPal's a double in 2 quarters. I don't know if that happens, but partnerships like this is what PayPal needs to be able to prove to the market there is more of an AI-centric ecosystem inside of payments versus what they've been doing historically. And for Google, the rich get richer. I mean, Google just completely dominating and showing that they have more and more ways to integrate their AI ecosystem into a lot of the legacy payment providers. Another big piece of news that was bullish for Google today is China has apparently dropped all of its antitrust problems against Google amid U.S. trade talks, per the Financial Times. Now, why are they doing this? Likely because the U.S. and China are negotiating literally right now, and that negotiating is likely leading them to hopefully get rid of the export controls on Nvidia, get more rare earth minerals, get to a decent tariff rate that both sides can agree on, and then obviously relax some of the pressures that are on the big tech companies. And as a result, that could be bullish long-term for Google and for all the other tech companies. So not too bad. Not too bad at all. Now, in the UK, there's a bunch of people meeting that I know you guys probably saw this video, but you got all the big names that are together in the UK having dinner. My thoughts on this are it's bullish. I mean, you got all these tech company CEOs coming together to have a meeting in one of the more developed parts of society that is embracing a lot of the tech ecosystem. And so you got Sam Altman, Jensen, you had Mark Benioff there, obviously Trump, Blackstone CEO. I think it just means more investments globally into this ecosystem of the United Kingdom. And they committed to some pretty big investments. Salesforce and Google, $6-7 billion, Microsoft, $40 billion. And so you're getting a lot more of that momentum. Now, the Uber and Tesla partnership that happened a couple of days ago, we were talking about Dara, the CEO of Uber, who just sold about $28 million worth of stock. Elon just bought $1 billion worth of stock. Here's what he said on the All In podcast on why Tesla should partner with Uber.
There's one company that wants to go on its own. A friend of ours runs it.
Oopsie, my bad. Exited that out. See, this is the mistakes you make live, and then it messes up your whole stream because you're so self-conscious about it. Let me go back to that. Here you go. This is the clip.
Company that wants to go on its own. Some conversations, obviously, publicly you have. What's the best pitch to Elon to put 100,000 robo-taxis into the Uber fleet while still doing his own, because his app is doing spectacularly well and the pilots are doing well, so he'll obviously figure it out. But what's your best pitch to him to joining the Uber network?
I think, listen, the pitch is simple, which is if you're looking to maximize the revenue of those robo-taxis
today,
yeah, we are your ticket to the maximization of that revenue. to the extent that you're looking to have these fleets owned by people, you know, kind of the digital shepherds, which is an amazing vision that Elon has, to the extent that those owners are not able to monetize their assets on the Uber network, they will under monetize. And if there's a competitor who is offering those vehicles to be on the Uber network, the monetization of those vehicles are going to be superior, and those digital shepherds are going to go elsewhere. So I think that is the pitch. And again, Elon is, you know, he kind of believes in full stack.
Yes.
And he's proven it. And I think that this market is large enough for there to be multiple winners.
Clearly.
But in the end, to the extent that, you know, we would love to partner with them. But at this point, they're looking to go it alone. And I think the market is large enough to carry a number of winners in this
I want to ask you a
ecosystem.
tough question.
Okay, after hearing that, look, the partnership could play out, but I think that Uber is desperate. I believe in Uber. I think there will be a much bigger company than they are today. But like, I think Elon knows he doesn't need Uber's fleet. He doesn't need their ecosystem, doesn't need their technology, doesn't need their app, doesn't need their network effect, doesn't need their users. Elon has enough distribution and Tesla has enough, hopefully, pricing power to get their costs to be 20 to 30% cheaper than Uber, to just get people to not use Uber and use Tesla. Now, that doesn't mean Uber's going to die or anything, but that does mean that one guy really wants a partnership. The other person doesn't see the need for it. If Elon were to capitulate and say, we are partnering with Uber, just like Uber partnered with Waymo, that would be not a red flag, but it would be a sign of basically Elon saying we can't do this by ourselves. And given how aggressive Elon has been on the idea that like there's no need for us to partner with anyone, we can completely take this entire market. I mean, Cathie Wood's entire model is based on them taking the entire market. You would imagine Elon would have to really get beaten up for them to say we're partnering with Uber. So I don't see that partnership happening. The whole freight thing is a whole different thing because it's with semis and freight and shipping stuff. So that's different than ride hailing and robotaxis. But if it were to happen, that would be an acknowledgement by Tesla that they just can't do it alone. And I don't think they're ready to say that. I don't think they're ready to say that. So over time, we're going to have to see how this one plays out. Yeah, and as Martin says right here, without a driver, they should be able to easily beat Uber on cost. The question is just if they eventually do that. And, obviously, robotaxi has not scaled yet. It's, it's barely in Austin. Like this is going to take some time for them to really scale it out. But once it gets to scale and you can turn on the flip and you've got 7 million vehicles on the road that potentially could become a robotaxi, that's when I wonder how much do they need a partner like an Uber. And if they do, then maybe it could still be successful for both of them. Uber right here, 94.14. That's up about 1.28%. Again, Uber does, if I'm not wrong, it's at like 3 billion rides a month. So Tesla's got a long way to go before they get anywhere near that. It's just the question of do they want to partner together or do they want to get there on their own? And as of now, they said they want to get there on their own. All right, folks, 30 seconds until this market opens. It is the first day after the rate cut. I know everyone's portfolios are probably doing very well. It has been a long 9 months. It has been an emotionally gut-wrenching 9 months of investing in the stock market. We all had to deal with April. We came out from April. August was pretty good. September was supposed to be bad, ending up to be pretty okay. We're going to see how this entire market plays out for the rest of the year. But at least today, the first day after the rate cut, maybe the market is more excited than not to price in these rate cuts and to have a good year towards the end of the year. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thursday, September 18th, 9:30 a.m. The stock market is once again open. All right, wake your ass up. Hoodie breaks 121. 121.25. Not bad for Hoodie. As we get into the market open, Palantir, 169.89 after getting their first $1 billion international contract with the UK. Tesla, 426. Nvidia, 174. Where is Intel? S&P 661. Intel, 31.29. Intel is up 25% on the day. First time Intel has had this type of a move in a very long time. SoFi, very close to 28. Let's see if they can crack it today. AMD, I really don't know if AMD deserves to be down 6% on the day based on this Intel-NVIDIA partnership. Again, NVIDIA buying $5 billion worth of Intel stock at $23.28. But the market is taking AMD down by about 5.5%. Reddit right here, 271. Grab with the morning dump, as has happened for the past 4 days. And then intraday, you tend to get a recovery, but that one is down about 0.5 or 0.25%. Amazon right there, 231. Meta, 784. Meta's actually up. Event was not good, but the products were relatively strong in terms of the ability to imagine that could be a new form of cash flow and obviously revenue generation for Meta across the board. Meta right there, 784.80. That's up 1%. CRM, that's up 1.2. Elf having a great 2 weeks. That's up 1.64. Apple's at 240. That is green. Where is the lab of rockets? Rocket Lab right here, 48.28. They had a crappy week based on that dilution news, but still holding 48, which I don't think is too bad. Roblox at 136. Tesla right here at 427. And then Hoodie at 120.45. Where is Novo? I think there was some news yesterday on Novo. That's up 5%. I don't remember the exact headline, but I believe it had something to do with the compounders, and that 160, 120 is green. HIMS, on the other hand, is also green, but slightly green. That's up by about 0.5%. BM&R, did we crack 59? 59.92, 60, baby. There she goes. 60, 60.19. And ETH isn't really moving, by the way. ETH is kind of stuck at 4,500. It's not like ETH's breaking out back to like 48, 4,900. So BM&R is just expanding that MNAV. You've got a lot of buyers that are buying it at an elevated premium for the sake of wanting to get exposure. And that will allow Tom Lee to just raise a lot more money to buy more Ethereum. Ethereum right there at 4,500. Bitmine, 60.6. That is up almost 7% on the day. Yes, the MNAV is expanding. Is Oklo at 100? Wow, dude. This freaking stock, put in the chat if you're in Oklo. My goodness. I have a friend. I told you guys this story multiple times, but I have a friend. I was with him in a coffee shop in California back in September. He said, hey, I got into Oklo in their private round in 2018. Stock was at $5. Stock's at $5 today. It hasn't really done anything for 6 years. I got to text him and see if he held on, but that stock is now $100 from $5 back in 2018. You could buy it for $5 in the public markets in September 2024. So absolutely incredible run. I don't think that's that meme driven, really. I really do think there's a bunch of nuclear deals that their company is going to be able to get, and the street's just pricing that in for now forward. And I think that's why it's getting that momentum. Rock Lab right there, 48.65. CoreWeave at 120.5. Where is D-Wave in the quantum stocks today? D-Wave 22.93, continuing its momentum. That's up 1.6%. IONQ was 70 yesterday. IONQ 68.16. That's up 4.2%. And then Rigetti, that one also is green by 4%. ASML was at 930 pre-markets. ASML still holding around that 925 range, which is not too bad. Wow, BM&R 62. She's moving. She is moving. That is green. Palantir, are we making a move? Palantir, we are making a move. Okay, 173. This one matters, folks. This one matters. Jason said that if we can hold 173, then we have a much better shot of heading to 190 just from a TA perspective. You could either believe it or not, but based on his TA, he thinks the path to 190 means we have to hold and close above 173. That was his specific target. So we got to wait till today to see if we can get that close. And again, they got $1 billion contract internationally. They deserve it. I mean, not that many software AI companies are getting $1 billion from the Ministry of Defense in the United Kingdom simply to provide AI tooling. Obviously, that shows a signal that they value Palantir. AMD recovering just a little bit, 151. SoFi very close to 28. Grab 617 going green after that initial 0.25% down. And then Robinhood getting back to 121. Robinhood getting back to 121, not too bad. Tesla 430. Tesla was at 435. Tesla was actually pumping while Meta was speaking last night. So Tesla was already trying to make a bit of a move. Tesla now back at 430. CrowdStrike, is that moving? CrowdStrike, wow. What's the news on CrowdStrike? 7% is not easy for Crowd. It usually doesn't move like that without a catalyst. They got a price target upgrade from Needham to 535. And Barclays adjusted them to 515. Okay, so they got two major upgrades this morning, and that looks like why CrowdStrike is moving. Palantir, wow, 174. Okay, so this is just very nice to see. Breaking above that 173 level is important. If we can crack 175, that would be very exciting. Grab, 620. 620 on Grab. NVIDIA at 174. BM&R, are we at 62? We are at 62.40, folks. My goodness, Robinhood's almost back to 122. We're 5 cents away. We got to 121.99. You got the entire market that's moving on rate cuts. I wonder if this is a 5 to 10 minute euphoric excitement after rate cuts, and if this dumps or if this actually is able to stabilize and continue. We're going to see over the next coming hours, but so far the market seems to like the rate cuts, and that seems to be the reason why they're moving. Uber's up, HIMS is up, ASTS is up, MicroStrategy 338 is up, CoreWeave is up, Google is up 1. Again, Google, we had some bullish news this morning in regards to China. That's at 253. That's an all-time high for Google. BM&R 10% on the day, 63.26. I mean, if this holds, it'll be at my break even pretty damn soon. And I will be rolling my covered calls. Goodness gracious, 10%. And again, Ethereum's not moving with it. So this is just the MNAV expanding. This is just the, which in layman's terms, that means more people are getting excited about the stock without caring about its actual net asset value, which means just like a company that trades at a pretty high PE, you wonder why does Palantir trade at 300 times for? Well, people are very excited about Palantir. And so I would think of it the same as an MNAV. The only difference is BM&R can dilute with that juicy MNAV and then buy more Ethereum. And then as Ethereum goes up, the MNAV theoretically should go up as well. So that is the sort of pattern or ecosystem that BM&R operates, that a lot of these treasury companies operate in. BM&R is just able to take a lot of advantage of it. 63.30, that's up now 11%. 63.50 on BM&R. Hoodie, 122, baby. 123 all-time highs. Let's see. And then Palantir, 40 cents away from 175. 40 cents away from 175. Jay Powell's job is safe. That is correct. Jay Powell's job is safe. Trump hasn't commented on the rate cuts yet. He hasn't put out a tweet. He hasn't said anything. So we don't have any comment from Trump yet, but Jay Powell's job is safe. AppLovin right here, 623. Palo Alto Networks, that's up 1%. MicroStrategy, that's up 3%. Uber, 93. Where is ASTS? That stock, 41.14. That's down. Where's Lemonade? That is slightly flat. Where is Oscar? That is up about 1%. Let's look at AMD. That one right there, 151. That one's still down 5%. He did say something. Oh, did he tweet about it? Let me see. Let me go to Truth Social. No, the last thing he tweeted about was Jimmy Kimmel's show getting canceled. Maybe he said it in an interview and I didn't get to see it, but I didn't see the post on Truth Social. But I would imagine he's happy. Hoodie right there, 122.56 is what we've got. TTD, that one, wow, down another 2%, even on a day like this. Any stock that's red on a day like this, very important to analyze why. Because this, even Nubank crossing 16, this is a big day for the entire market. All the algos, all the money managers, all the hedge funds are pressing the buy button right now based on this rate cut. And you can see it compounding. Lyft right here. Lyft is down because it was up a lot this week. But Lyft right here down about 2%. You're seeing pretty much everything catch a bid. What about Verizon? Is that green? Verizon's red. Okay, so some of the value names are going down. A Home Depot, is that holding up? Home Depot's holding up a little bit. Walmart, by the way, we talk about tariffs, the consumer. Walmart is that at all-time highs? It is at all-time highs at 104.39. 106 was actually the all-time high, so it's very close to it. But you're starting to see the market get excited for everything. S&P 500 right there, 661 is green on the day. Oracle, 295. Okay, now Oracle, we can understand why it's red. I mean, it's up like 40% from last week. So some of those stocks are going to take a breather. But in general, you're seeing a lot of names get momentum. SoFi right there, 27.30, and then Hoodie, 50 cents away from 123. UNH, I think that should be green today. That one's red. Okay, more of in the value territory. High beta is going green. Value is going down, so you could understand that. But UNH right there, just slightly green on the day. Marvell, is that one holding up? Marvell is green, 4%. You're seeing some of the semis really get a move. AMD is down because of the Intel stuff. Intel right here, are we holding 30%? We are holding 25% on Intel. BM&R, did we cross 64? No, 63.50. 63.50. All right, so it's 10 minutes into the market open, and now we see, is any of this juice sustainable? And you're already seeing some red candles across the board that are not just isolated to some of the value names, like a Microsoft that's starting to go red, Meta that's close to going red, but still up about 1%. Salesforce losing a little bit of its steam, Apple losing a bit of its steam. So now we got to see if that was just 10 minutes of momentum, got a bunch of new buyers in, and does that die out, or do people come in, or can we just kind of normalize at some of these prices? I mean, I don't think Hood should go back below 120. If it does, then it just feels like algos. Like with rate cuts, Hood Summit, all that stuff. I mean, this is well-deserved for Hood to be here. So we got to see if it can hold on. NVIDIA right here, 173, down a little bit from 175. We broke 123, did we? Oh, wow, I didn't even see that, dude. 123.07. Yeah, you're right. We broke 123.07 again. So third time in a row over the past week, breaking 123. We got to see if we can now hold it. Tesla, wow, see, Tesla's losing it. Tesla's losing it, 430. All right, so it's a little bit of wonky price action back and forth. Palantir's about to lose 173. Yep, just lost 173. So we got to see how much the market's able to hold after the rate cut. Look, the rate cut's bullish. Question is it that bullish to expand the multiple today? Or is it going to take some time? Which means if you have covered calls, I wouldn't freak out that much because you got to really see if the market can actually like hold this momentum before you get scared to roll those covered calls. But I also don't think you should FOMO in to a bunch of these names. You got to see, like, can the market normalize at these levels? Apple right here, 239. That one's slightly below 240. Grab is holding on strong, dude. 628 up 3%. I mean, it's been really resilient, holding this $6 range. If it closes above 6, it'll be the 5th day in a row of closing above 6. Volume already is 6 million within 10 minutes, which is quite incredible. Grab does not get this type of volume. I don't know what is waking it up. I do not think it's retail, but is starting to show some momentum. SoFi right there, 2734. Google at 252. Where's Open Door? Open Door's red. Interesting. Huh. On a day with the rate cuts, Open Door's red. I mean, it did pump a lot yesterday, so it's basically flat at 1018. But the rate cut is not really sending this one flying, even though it was up a bit yesterday. S&P right there, 661. AMD 152. Spotify, are we moving on Spotify? Spotify, 738. Spotify's moving up 4%. And then Netflix, that is slightly down. Rock Lab goes red. All right, so you're starting to see a little bit of weakness, which no one can get that mad about, given September so far has been pretty good. But we got to see if that weakness ends up being a buy the dip across the board. Nebius goes red and CoreWeave goes red as well. There you go. Nebius down about 2% and CoreWeave down about 1%. I think if we can just end September at these levels, I would be ecstatic. Be more than happy. If SoFi could end at 27, if Palantir could end at 173, if Hood could end at 122, Nvidia in the 170s, S&P in the 660s, Grab in the 630s, I would be more than happy to end out September that way. Because then after September, you get into Q3 earnings. And if you're confident in the stocks that you're holding and you've held them all year and you think they can deliver a banger Q3 and good Q4 guidance, I mean, the end of the year should be really strong, especially because we have more rate cuts coming. So it's like, I don't know, end of the year should be a classic end of year Santa Claus rally, and nothing crazy happens in the macro. A lot of the craziness that was going to happen, which deals with tariffs and inflation and interest rates, that has already happened back in April, which is why I think August and September are not as bad as they usually are, because we kind of had that waterfall flush in April. So now we just got to see if we can continue that. Meta still holding about 1.2%. So Meta was about to go red, but now it's holding on 785.35. That is green. Santa is in real limit. Okay. So you've obviously fed into the propaganda of the mainstream media around Santa not being real. The way I was raised was to understand that Santa is a real figure. But I understand that, you've lost your imagination. And so it is what it is. Bitfarms right there. That's up 12.3%. Robinhood lowered their margin rate. So if you are in a high yield savings account or money market fund, any second now, or you probably have already got the email, your rates have likely come down. So if you were getting 4.5%, you're probably getting 4.2%. If you were paying 5.2% for margin, you're probably paying 5% now that those 25 bips came down. So across the board, if you have cash or you're utilizing cash for any reason, your rates should be coming down, whether it's the rates you're borrowing at or whether it's the rates you're getting as a yield. And that likely is happening throughout the day. QBTS, that one's still moving on Quantum. Let's look at the heat map. That one's up 22.85. Let's pull up this heat map and see what we've got going on. Then we'll pull up the stock draft challenge. Yeah, pretty much green across the board. I mean, you got some red in telecommunications, utilities, healthcare, consumer defensives. Obviously, all of those are more value plays. That's why they're red. But tech goes green. Financials, again, red. Apple's green. Nvidia's green. Software is all green today. Salesforce, Adobe, Intuit, Uber, etc. Cisco, and then Google and Meta are green. So basically, tech going green, defensives going red. Check Orbs. Okay, so this is the new Dan Ives company with Tom Lee. That's up 30% on the day. So again, BitMine has I think now $250 million stake in this thing. Dan Ives is the chairman of this company. He's going to be on the channel on Monday, Dan Ives. 10:30, Dan Ives will be on the channel on Monday. And yeah, we'll get to ask him about what is this whole new project with WorldCoin and all that stuff. But that one up 30% on the day. So that one is making a move, and that one obviously very good for BitMine. BitMine right there back to 60. So down from 63 to 60. Again, very volatile. but still up 5% on the day. AppLovin, just an incredible name, dude. Incredible name, 625, up 3%. What should I roll my BMNR covered call to? It has a strike price of 56 for this week. Honestly, again, this comes down to how comfortable you are with the stock. I would probably roll it to next week and keep the same strike price, because unless you think there's some massive explosion coming, you can get a bunch of premium, keep it at the same strike, or you can roll it up to 57, 58. But I wouldn't be that aggressive in rolling it out a couple months just to get to like 65, unless you're super convinced it's going higher. But there is a way to yield the volatility every week and keep the same strike without having to necessarily get above the current price, aka roll in the money covered calls, because the premiums you're getting essentially are your exit above the strike. And if it comes down back below, then you'll be able to roll it again. So yeah, if you're at like 46, it's a different question, but at 56, if you want to roll out a couple weeks to get to 60, I don't think that's crazy. Hims right there, 51.35, Uber 94.17, Roblox at 136, and then Hoodie's still trying to hold on to 122. Who's buying AMD? Who's buying, and like, does anyone think it deserves to be down in the, because I feel like this is a classic buy the dip. I don't think Nvidia and Intel partnering is bearish AMD. I can understand why the market algorithmically thinks that. I don't know if it's actually going to stop AMD's growth by any sense of the imagination. I mean, AMD is already destroying Intel in a lot of different categories, but you know, it's not like Nvidia is like really. Nvidia's just giving them $5 billion. You know, I mean, like, yes, there's probably some collaboration that Nvidia's, but it's not like Nvidia's like, hey, we're the, you know, Intel's our biggest trusted partner. Like, we love them as much as this is not a foundry deal like they have with TSM. So people selling off TSM today, to me, is just stupid. Like, it's not like Intel, yeah, TSM down 1%. It's not like Nvidia's working with Intel for foundry. Intel's working with them for x86 architecture, which is like, okay, cool. But that's not enough of a reason, I think, to be bearish AMD, TSM, or any of the other semi plays. So I feel like it's probably a buy the dip. Duolingo, that one is up a little bit on the day. Now, Meta introduced some more live translation tools yesterday, along with what Apple did with the AirPods. Meta's demo was horrible, and they couldn't show off the live translation. So, like, yeah, not the best. Now, granted, not good for Duolingo because the whole narrative is that live translation and AI is killing them. But Meta wasn't really able to show off what it looked like. I still think Duolingo's cheap. I'm not buying it, but I do agree with Tanner. What he said last night is, and Tanner hasn't bought it yet either, even though he's interested. The problem with Duolingo is that this narrative will be an overhang for them, presumably for the next coming years, unless their growth is so explosive they just beat the narrative. Grab right there, back at 630, 632 now on Grab, 634 on Grab. And I don't know if Duolingo can do that. I think they can, but like, am I willing to really make a big bet on that? Probably not. And so I think that's the broader issue with them. I bought 50 shares of AMD at 150 this morning. All right, so we got some people buying the dip on AMD. I sold some puts at 145 on AMD. I do not hate that at all. I think at 145 it gets a bit more exciting if you were be forced to buy. Yeah, a decent amount of you buying the dip on AMD. Decent amount of you buying the dip on AMD. T-Mobile initiated a dividend today. I think they always had a dividend, if I'm not wrong. That stock right here slightly down. Their dividend is up 16% year over year. So a little bit of an increase on the dividend. Stock basically flat. Nvidia 173. Then you got Grab at 633. Let me see if there's any macro data coming out today. Bank of England left their rates unchanged. So we had Bank of Canada cut. We had the United States cut. Bank of England left their left their rates stable. Today's Thursday? Yeah. Oh, we had jobless claims. 231 versus 264. Wow. That's a great number. That's way better than last week. Last week we had 264 versus 230. The street expected 240. We came in at 231. Okay, not bad. That probably is why the market also rallied, because the labor market is not as bad as the market thought last week, even though we did get the rate cut. So not too bad. I missed that. Jobless claims doing okay this morning, and likely helping out. Yeah, we'll get money market data on the close today, and we will see. Yeah, I missed jobless claims. It's Thursday. I totally missed the jobs claims. Cantor did raise their price target on Hood to 140. You have Barclays at 160, and Bank of America raised it to 139 last week. So you do have a bunch of price targets saying, hey, Hood should be probably much higher into the 140s, which, dude, Hood to 140 end of year, is that crazy? I don't think that's crazy. I mean, if you get a crypto run, you get a broader market run, you get a strong Q4, Q3, I don't think that's crazy. So we just got to see if Hood can do it. Circle right there, 139, that's up 6%. AppLovin trying to break 630. Enphase, that's down a little bit. Then Microsoft, that is now green. Let's take a look at the stock draft and what we've got going on there. Wow. Matt's at 25.1. I'm at 25. We're close, Matt Money. We are close. We are 0.15% away. Tanner's at 18. Steve's at 6. Chris is officially in double digits at 10.8. At 10.8. I'm up 22% on Palantir, 60% on Hood, 30% on Tesla, 21% on AMD, 16% on JP Morgan, 85% on Nebius. Shout out to you guys. You guys got me Nebius. 35% on Grab, 20% on Apple, down 2% on Visa, and down 40% on Duolingo. Matt's up 80% on Rocket Lab, 6% on Amazon, 84% on SoFi, down 2% on ASTS, up 1% on Berkshire, up 30% on Celsius. Celsius has been a monster. 20% he's up on Oscar, down 1% on EOG, and down 17% on Dutch Bros, and up 51% on ABCL. So that's what we got in terms of the stock draft. Microsoft right there at 510, and then Bitcoin at 117. I do not have Google. Chris has Google. Chris has Google in his portfolio. Yeah, I asked for the year-to-dates yesterday on the market close, and I mean, I did not see numbers that were like, the average would be like 50 to 70%, dude, from the numbers I saw yesterday. And I can imagine, you know, first of all, Tesla caught up for a lot of people. That helped year-to-dates. Google caught up for a lot of people. That helped year-to-dates. For me in particular, Grab caught up, which helped year-to-dates. Hood, obviously, S&P, that helped year-to-dates. What else has been making a bit? ELF. I know a bunch of people are in ELF. That has been helping. Apple, that was stuck at like below 200. That's been helping. AppLovin, that's been helping. I mean, you just got a lot of names that have started to really pick up some momentum that have been kind of not doing much. And it's helped a lot of portfolios. It's helped a lot of portfolios. BMNR, yeah, that I was talking about this yesterday. This was like a quick win at the end of the year. Like, you know, sometimes you just make these strategic positions in the portfolio, and you think maybe there's a chance this can turn out. This is like helping a lot of people's year-to-dates. I mean, dude, some of the screenshots I've seen on Twitter, I've seen some people just like freaking buy like 500,000 shares, 200,000 shares. Like people, Triple V has 100,000 shares of this. I don't know if he still holds it, but he bought it at 40. And yeah, it's been a big part of a lot of people's portfolios towards the end of the year, which is not too bad. Reddit 280. Reddit, that's a big one. Dude, I had Reddit at 115. I got a little concerned about valuation. This was one of those names where growth matters more than valuation, especially because they have an AI angle to them with all the data they're producing on Reddit, which is very valuable to Google and OpenAI, and I just didn't see it. I missed that one, but I had it. So you got Reddit that's breaking. I mean, imagine Reddit breaks 230 end of year. Is that crazy to say? I mean, who knows, right? It has a shot. So that one not doing too bad. CrowdStrike again got upgraded today, and that's why they're really moving. There you go. Wow, 10%. I didn't know the upgrade was that bullish. I guess there's something in that upgrade that got investors to be like, we need to get CrowdStrike. This thing was under 400 after earnings back in August. Now it's at 490. Not too bad. Not too bad. Snapchat right here also finally getting above 8. Finally. I mean, this thing was stuck at 7 for like 3 weeks. So if you bought the dip on Snapchat, you are doing well. Big Bear AI, 610 after that politician bot. NVIDIA right here, 173. SoFi, 2740. Grab, 640. All right, so 650, can we break it? We got to 642 a couple days ago. Can we break 650 today? That would be massive. Grab volume, about 12.6 million shares so far on the day. StubHub went public. Is that doing good? That is doing horrible, down 7%. Okay, so StubHub IPO, not really doing the best. Klarna IPO, also kind of still above the price, but down 1.3%. Some of these recent IPOs just haven't been enough to get people that excited. Okay, what else do we got going on? Is Trump about to go live? I think Trump's about to go live with the Prime Minister in the UK. They're probably going to talk a lot about Yeah, they're not live yet, but we'll switch over to see them when they are live. They'll probably be talking about some of the investments that we made. But StubHub, yes, not doing the best right here. Alphabet 252, that's holding on. SoFi 2740. Then Grab trying to crack 643 right there. Meta 783, Salesforce 245, DoorDash that's up on the day. Nubank just below 16, Lockheed Martin that's down. And you got Palantir at 174. Let's pull some of the other headlines that we have this morning. Again, the main thing was that rate cut that's getting people very excited. Oh, SoFi was upgraded by Mizuho from 26 to 31. So you got a nice little SoFi update. Goldman Sachs increased their price target on Tesla from 300 to 395, which is not too bad. And then you had Elon tweet this as well. So SemiAnalysis, which is a firm that analyzes all of the data centers, they said that XAI now has 460 megawatts of natural gas turbines installed and either operating or under construction. Elon said we're still a small fry at 1 gigawatt. For serious power in the 100 gigawatt continuous range, which is 1/5 of US average power consumption, it probably needs to be solar and battery powered. At 1 TW, solar battery is the only realistic option. Is that terawatt? I think TW is terawatt. So from that perspective, the energy portion of Tesla is what I think a lot of people, at least that are more on the bearish side, forget to think about with Tesla. Like if we really do need a terawatt of energy, that's not just going to come from natural gas and oil and pipelines. That you're going to need solar. And yeah, that is bullish for Enphase, but that's really bullish for Tesla, given obviously they, have a massive energy business that's rooted in solar. And maybe that's also why Elon bought $1 billion of his stock, dude. I mean, like maybe he said, hey, like I know FSD is not fully at scale. I know Optimus is not ready yet, but energy itself is going to be a catalyst that really does help us grow. And that's the one portion of their business, I believe, that's still growing at triple digits year over year. I think maybe it was like 85% last quarter, but it was like 110% the quarter before. And that could be one thing investors look to as like a massive, I mean, if Oklo can go from 6 to 100 just based on the idea that nuclear energy matters, you could probably bake in a little bit more premium into Tesla off energy mattering as well, which could make sense. Yeah, and solar means battery, and Tesla obviously has the batteries. Where's Archer? How's that one doing today? That one is up a little bit, up 1.5%. That is green. Palantir 175, back again. Back again. There you go. Dude, if it can break 175, we got a shot to maybe see the 180s. I just want to know. I'm just genuinely I'm not even asking this to troll. Where did Citron Research go? Like, where are they? Like, I'm not even trying to be funny, but they tweeted, hey, short it. It's going to 40 3 weeks ago, and we have not heard a single peep from them. And I'm like, are they out of the position? Did they close their short, or are they not trying to get people to think this is going back to 40? Because we just haven't heard from them at all. And so I'm really curious, like, are they out of this thing? Do they think it's not worth it, or are they doubling down? SoFi right here, 2746, AMD 150. AMD, a little recovery. If you bought it at 150, it's at 154. You could have got this at 149 at 2. Not too bad. This one's getting a big green. See, the thing is, we don't know how heavy they shorted either. Because if they only shorted like a couple thousand shares, it's whatever. Now, if they shorted like, a couple 100,000 shares, but they haven't disclosed that, obviously, because they probably don't want people to know how deep they are in. But if it's a small short, I mean, I think it's a small short because if you short that many shares and it like goes against you, you need to produce a lot of media to try to get people to realize, hey, this is a bad story, and try to get people back on your side to go short. But if it's only like a small number of shares, then they could just take the loss and move on and forget about it. But we just have not heard from them. Grab right there, 641. This is after the downgrade yesterday. After the downgrade from HSBC, this one is still moving higher. So and usually downgrades on small names like this that don't have a lot of coverage, they do hurt the name because there's not that much coverage. But even with the downgrade, Grab is like, nope. We don't care. We're going higher. 123, baby, on hoodie. We are back. All-time high, 123.44. Let's see. We got about 20 cents. It's very volatile, but maybe we can break through. 123.44. Trump and Xi are calling at 9 a.m. on Friday. Okay, cool. Trump and Xi are calling at 9 a.m. on Friday. that should also be pretty bullish as long as that call can go well. Let's see, bro. Hoodie, I think it wants 125. It's got to do a little work to get there. We got to get through 123.44, but there's a shot. There is a shot we can break through. Not too bad. Not too bad. Hoodie right there, 123.14. Nvidia still not really moving heavy today. It's up 2%, but it's not really making that big a move. Intel, I still think, is holding on to 25. Intel, 25% up, $31. Still holding green. Tesla, 426. And then Palantir trying to crack 176. Again, $1 billion deal from the UK. Hard to feel like that's super bearish. And that's likely getting some momentum. Meet Kevin said AMD has debt and Nvidia has cash, so out of the two, Nvidia is the best. I don't think AMD's debt is the reason to prefer them over Nvidia. But yeah, obviously, you know, the financial situation might be better. I think the growth is more the bigger reason why I like them over Nvidia. Steve, good morning.
I just want to tell you that you and I are the stupidest investors I've ever actually met. Okay, well, we're live, so please tell everybody why we're the stupidest investors. Did you see Intel this morning?
I mean, I think you were. I just realized you've been talking about this name for the past couple of years, haven't you?
Well, forget the past couple of years. When it went down to 19, what did I say?
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Everybody lets this go under.
Yeah.
And there's too many assets for this not to get saved. I don't know why I didn't just pull the trigger on like half the portfolio.
I think
it's so easy to say in retrospect because I didn't do it, but I knew this was going to happen.
I think next time you have an idea, whether it's Oracle at 125.
I am just giving you control of my trading.
I think you need to give me control. Like when you have Oracle at 125, Warner Brothers at 10, Intel at 19, you should say, Amit, take some money and just buy it for me so I never have to look at it.
I think that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to set up a new account. I'm going to fund it. I don't even want to know what the password is. I want you to change it. And I'm just going to tell you what we should do and then just freaking do it because obviously I get sidetracked.
Yeah, and people are saying this is all in hindsight, but guys, if you were there when Intel was 19, like every time he joined the show, he was like, we got to look at Intel. We got to look at Intel.
And it's not just Intel. Think about all the crazy stuff that I've pulled. DocuSign, Fortnite, like obscure stuff that nobody's talking about. I'm like, there's no way this doesn't go up.
Dude, remember ELF at 51?
ELF.
I remember I was charging my Tesla in the.
Who was talking about ELF? Who was talking about ELF?
I was charging my Tesla in the parking lot of a Wawa on a Saturday evening, and I remember getting the call saying, "Hey, we need to look at ELF at 50." And your thesis was right before the summer. You're like, "Oh, women are going to wear more makeup in the summer." I was like, "What?" I was like, "I don't know, bro," but there you go. Yeah. Market's moving. Obviously, they like the rate cuts, so not too bad. Not too bad at all.
Yeah, I'm happy this is behind us. Now I can actually look at utilizing my SoFi shares to do something with my life.
Yeah, I agree. Bitmine, by the way, dude, 62.
Yeah, kind of crazy.
Tom freaking Lee up 9% on the day.
Tom Lee.
It's incredible.
Not the drummer, who you have no idea who that is.
I have no idea who that is. That is correct.
Because you've never actually listened to a Motley Crue song.
The Motley, is that like the Motley Fool, the stock website?
No, Motley Crue. Oh my God. Oh my God. Go listen to the whole album of Dr. Fielder, please.
All right, Steve. I'll call you later on the market close.
Later.
Dude, who is the Motley Crue? Genuinely never heard of these guys. Nvidia 174. Okay, hoodie, we couldn't break 123.44. Grab still holding 6. Oh, wow, we hit 643. Boom. That's a new 52-week high. On the way to potentially get to the 650s, which would be very nice. Margin rates now for Hood have come down. These are the new margin rates, as you can see right there. So if you want to borrow $1 million, it'll be 4.75, 100,000, 5%, 50, 5.3, and up to 55.5. So that is starting to come down, which is another function of the rate cuts. You guys all know the Motley Crue. Am I the only one that doesn't know them? Am I the only one? Okay, hold on. We got this news as well. Farm AGRI has executed a letter of intent with Tesla to deploy up to 10,000 Optimus 3 humanoid robotics across its owner-operated farm operations, API synthesis, and prescription drug manufacturing. Elon has not confirmed this, but I'm just seeing this right now. A letter of intent to buy 10,000 Optimus robots from Tesla. That's fake? Elon denied it? Okay, thank you guys for fact-checking me on that. This from Farzad's. Farzad's like a big Tesla bull, so that's why I looked at it. Okay. Well, the point is, even if this one is fake, which we'll probably get more fake ones over time, this is exactly what I think needs to happen. And I was talking about this a couple months ago. Like a Walmart just needs to come out with a letter of intent, say, hey, we're ready to buy 100,000 robots. And Amazon, which probably is not going to do it because Bezos doesn't like Elon, but that type of company needs to come out with a letter of intent or a memorandum of understanding to say, hey, we're not going to like commit to buying them today, but once they're ready, we would like 1 million bots. I mean, how as a sum of the parts valuation on Tesla, how do you not say, all right, that deserves a premium if a Walmart's willing to buy 1 million robots at, I don't know, 50,000 a bot or something like that. So hopefully we do get an actual announcement like that in the future. And we're going to see if that ends up playing out. He said it was fake. Okay, cool. Yeah, I did not see Elon correcting saying that was fake. But hopefully we get an announcement like that in the future. Grab right there, 642. That's going green. AMD trying to get green. Fubo, I know there's a vote on September 30th happening. Wow, Fubo up 7%. Okay. So that one getting a little bit of momentum. Femios, thank you for becoming a channel member. Remember this super chat when Roaring Kitty reveals his position in Unity. You know, I've heard this theory from a lot of people. I really don't know if Kitty's in Unity. I know Unity's done well over the past year. It was down a bit when Meta unveiled like their Temu Unreal Engine, as one of you guys called it yesterday. I don't know, bro. I don't know if Keith's is in Unity. Now, what would really be exciting is if Roaring Kitty took a stake in Open Door. That would be like, holy. I mean, if he joins Open Door, that would be aggressive. We got to see if that can end up actually playing out. Grabby grab 646. Okay. This is the moment where we got to see breaking 650 would be massive. Absolutely massive. That'd be big. That'd be a big, big deal. 645, 646. That's a new 52-week high. Volume is coming in. We got to see if they can get there. Zach, thanks for the super chat. Motley Crue's Kickstart My Heart theme song when your calls print. Okay, Kickstart My Heart. That is the song that I will make sure to listen to. What's the volume on Grab right here? 23 million almost. I bought more yesterday. I bought another. Oh, we're getting a phone call. Chris, good morning.
Dude, can you add me to the list of I'll fund the account Ahmed Kokreja manages for me? Because I'm in the same boat on, I have the buy button on my best ideas. Me and Steve are in the same damn position. We have great ideas, but it's hard for us to buy the buy button. And you seem to always press the buy button harder than the rest of us.
Yeah, well, you guys are older. You're a little bit more conservative, but you have good ideas, and you need to just, buy.
I know, man. I know. I wish that Robinhood would take away my sell button, too.
Dude.
I've never, yeah.
BM&R, 10%. I mean, your $100 target looks like it's coming sooner than you think if this plays out.
Man, I was supposed to get to 500 spreads. It got to 300 something. Steve, I know Steve's is Steve still on the line?
No, Steve's off.
Oh, Steve's off? Yeah, man. Me, you, and Steve, we spoke about this thing. We should have really hit it harder, but it is what it is. No big deal.
It is funny because it's like Steve was first to the party. I was skeptical. Then Tanner joined. I was still skeptical. Then Tom Lee came on my show. Then I got on board. Then you talked to Tanner and I. Then you. So this is the first trade. All four of us are like, yeah, we're like legit in it. We believe in it. And now it's just a question to see if it ends up playing out.
Yeah. It's I really should have dug into it a little bit deeper. Sometimes I get lost in in trying to do like due diligence on something instead of just saying, you know what, fuck it. Like there's interest, go in it and then figure out, like, it's like the Stanley Druckenmiller thing, just buy it and then like figure out the.
And ironically, I told you yesterday, Stanley Druckenmiller's, his hedge fund is in BM&R. So.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. That's just, yeah, like I said, sometimes we need to start doing our Monday, what are they called? Wiseman meetings again.
On Zoom, yes, we absolutely need to. Yeah. Then we can get some more DD. That's how we found ASTS as well. So, Chris, I'll call you in a bit. Trump and the other guy are live.
Yeah, do your thing. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.
Later. All right, here we go. We pull this up, and I said Trump and the other guy. I'm not from the UK. I'm sorry, but Trump and the UK Prime Minister, they're live.
Signal of our determination to win this race together, and to ensure it brings real benefits in jobs, in growth, in lower bills, to put more hard-earned cash in people's pockets at the end of each month. That's what we're determined to deliver. And we're bringing businesses with us. We've just come from a fantastic meeting with business leaders where we set out this vision. They have responded with new deals and investment, breaking every record that we have. £250 billion flowing both ways across the Atlantic. That is a record. Expected to create 15,000 jobs here in the United Kingdom. High-skilled jobs in cutting-edge sectors where people can build careers for the long term, changing lives in communities up and down our country. And look, while we shape this bond for a new era, the fundamentals have not changed.
Okay, we'll get back to that in a bit. They'll probably take some questions. That's when we'll see what they're saying. Grabby grab. There we go. 650, baby. Oh my. There we go. 650. 650 on Grabby Grab. It broke through. That's a big deal psychologically, man. That is a massive deal psychologically. And just getting above those levels are very, very, very important. I mean, it is proving the past 4 days have not just been hype. It's not just been, meme-ish. It's not just been random. It's actually been based on some real volume and momentum that's coming in. These are the options. Update on these. I'll be updating you guys throughout the journey, whether we get to $10 or not. We got to get to $10 by January 2027 for these to really work. But this is partly why my year to date has got a lot better. I mean, this position was basically negative 30,000 for the majority of the year, and now it's plus 50,000 as these spreads are starting to get closer to the long end of the strike price that we need for grab. So there you go, 650. Now, if we can break 650, then you start asking yourselves, are we on the way to 7? Are we on the way to 7 to get there? Robinhood right here, 122.77 pound share, 175 pound share did break 176. S&P 663. That's up that's up almost 0.7%. That's a massive move for the S&P. That's huge for the S&P, up almost up more than 0.5% on the day. Meta right there, that's green, 786. Amazon 230. BM&R still holding 63. Back to 63 was at 62.95. 63.50 was the previous high. Now it's 63.07. Tesla 428, and then Hoodie trying to get back to 123. Not bad. Not bad. Yeah, I think the September weakness, again, this was kind of one of the theories I had going into September and August, which is every time we've had a crappy August and September, it has happened because we haven't had a really crappy year. So you get towards the end of the year, you got to go through a little pain to get some gain. We went through a lot of that pain in April to inevitably get that gain if you believed that the tariffs were not that big of a deal. And so because it happened in the middle of the year already, it kind of messed up the historical seasonality of the stock market, at least for 2025. And maybe that's what's taking place, along with the fact that AI is real. Earnings are real from AI. Rates are coming down. I mean, you got a lot of tailwinds that are coming together. The tariffs are actually producing real revenue. They're not really producing that much inflation. At least we're not seeing that much in the data. And all of that coming together is very bullish. Pounce right there, 175 grab, holding 650, which is not too bad. Yeah, Ethereum back to 4,600 as well. Tom Lee was right about everything up timber. That is correct. He was right about that. Brad says, admit my average cost on the grab contracts were 25 cents. I'm happy. Thanks. I don't have a lot of them, but it's still making a difference. First of all, congratulations. My average is 34 cents. So you got a better average than me. And yeah, from 25 cents to 55 cents, you are doing incredible on those. So amazing, amazing, amazing stuff. BD says, I'm officially a quarter millionaire today. Congratulations, BD. And a lot of people are reaching milestones in the portfolio. Absolutely incredible. And it's why we listen to a guy in a purple tie talk about monetary policy. For days like this. For days like this. By the way, I texted my sister and asked her about J-Pow, and this was her response. Just what? With a question mark? You know, she's like, what? It's like, what? What are you talking about? So she had no clue. She did not care. Robinhood, we got 20 cents away. Let's see if we can break all-time highs. Let's see if we can do it. Should I be worried about my Palantir covered calls for 200 in December? Could I see Palantir going to 200 by December? Yes. I also do think that if you're in those covered calls, you can roll those for 220 to February, March, and you can kind of maintain that stuff. So I don't think it's something to freak out about now. Palantir is just too far below that price. If you're at 180, 190, I would say maybe you can roll it, but 200, you have a bit of a margin of safety. And now the question becomes for Q3, how much can Palantir grow? They just grew 48%. They're definitely going to grow above 50%. At least that's my assumption. What if they grow 59% or 57%? They're closing in on 60%. I wonder how much the street says, oh man, we cannot ignore this. Now, obviously, a lot of that is already priced into the stock because the stock is expensive. But a quarter like that could be very, very strong for Palantir and obviously just continue to expand the multiple. And yeah, the UK defense contract is obviously very good along with the NHS. Oklo over 100. Wow, your sister took an hour to reply to your message. Yeah, she did not care. But no, dude, I mean, the rate cut really mattered. Really, 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 really freaking mattered. And we got it, which is important. It's why we listen to a guy in basketball hats and hoodies. Yes, exactly. You listen to a guy in basketball hats and hoodies that's streaming the guy wearing the purple tie. Also, you guys made a meme out of this. I didn't know you guys were going to do this, but where is this thing? You got, or not a meme. It's like a GIF or something. A GIF. Is it a GIF or a GIF? I think it's a GIF. Maybe it's a GIF. Yeah, this thing. So I did this yesterday as soon as I saw J-Pow say inflation wasn't that big of a deal. And yeah, shout out to Uzi. Now it's a GIF. Palantir back to 176. BMNR back to 63. And then grab holding 650. Google right there, 252 on the day. Again, we're seeing if Hoodie can break those 20 cents. All right, let's get back to Trump and the UK guy, and we'll see what they're saying.
Bring Israel.
And we seem to be hitting new highs, and I think we're going to do much better even as time goes by. Jobs are at a record, and most importantly, we have more than $17 trillion. $17 trillion, and this is during an 8-month period being invested in the country, which is not only a record, but if you compare $17 trillion to the last year of the Biden administration, they did $250 billion. They didn't do $1 trillion for the 4-year period. We did $17 trillion of investment coming in. A lot of it's because of tariffs, and a lot of it's for a lot of other reasons, but there's never been anything like it. It's an economic superstar. It's what's become. It was mismanaged and badly handled for a long period of time, but it's not badly handled anymore. So that's a record. And remember, that's up until 8 months. We have another few months to go, and that number is going to get significantly higher, especially if we win a certain case that we're waiting to hear. That will be something like the world has never seen. I want to congratulate the United Kingdom on making the vital commitment to spend 5% of GDP on defense at the NATO summit this year. We've worked together very closely in so many ways. I'm very honored to tell you that we've solved 7 wars, wars that were unsolvable, wars that couldn't be negotiated or done. The U.S. has done 7 of them. The one that I thought would be easiest would be because of my relationship with President Putin, but he's let me down. He's really let me down. It was going to be Russia and Ukraine, but we'll see how that turns out. But that turned out to be, I thought it might be among the easiest of the group, but we had settled just about every conflict. And as you know, we're working very hard on Israel and Gaza. All that's happening over there. Complex, but it's going to get done. It'll all get done right. And likewise, Russia and Ukraine will get done.
All right, we'll get back to them when they're taking Q&A. Robinhood, very close. She wants all-time high. She's close. And Grab, we still did not break 650. 649 right there. She's trying to break 650. Robinhood's very close. Palantir, trying to get 177. Trying to get 177. Nvidia's waking up from 173 to 175. That's nice for Nvidia. And then Tesla just under 430 to see if we can get there. Alex said, I lost all respect for you since the whole jersey over hoodie fiasco, but my grab spreads are printing, so you're on my good side again. Dude, I'm bringing back the jersey over the hoodie eventually. I'm going to do it on a day you guys don't expect. It's going to be epic. It's going to be epic. But no, dude, the cool thing about Grab right here, and I'm really happy that people are, having their calls print, spreads print, they're seeing their shares go up is, again, I've said it over and over again, but this one is the third one for me, like the one that I've really attached my brand to. I don't think it is really played out yet, but it's nice to see a little bit of a move. And it's the one that all of us, whether you're in it or not, at least got to do together. Palantir, we did not get to do together. Hood, we did not get to do together just because, my channel wasn't as big. And Grab is the third one that we're doing. And it's just like, it's one of the most rewarding things in the world for anyone as an investor, especially as an investor who has more of a public image, to publicly put out a thesis and then see that thesis play out. And the thesis I don't even think has played out. We're just getting the stock to start moving closer to that thesis. But it really is one of the most rewarding things on the planet. And it's hard to freaking do. So, and unlike sports, right? You have a thesis on the Knicks winning the championship. It's like, okay, they win it. That's awesome. You have a thesis on Grab going from 4 to 10. A lot of people make money, right? That's like life-changing stuff for myself and other people. And so that's why it's just such a community effort and it's so exciting to see happen. But you got to see it happen. You got to see it happen. And also, I mean, look, a lot of you guys are probably entrepreneurs in the chat. I have my own business with media as an entrepreneur, but I don't think a lot of us are building public companies, right? Or like building a company that we're going to take public. I mean, that's a very rare thing to build a company and IPO it. So betting on that company when it's deeply undervalued, or at least if your assumption is it's deeply undervalued, is the next best thing to actually taking a company public. Right? Because that's blood, sweat, and tears of actually building your own company and bringing it public. Being able to bet alongside a company you believe in when it's in the gutter, which is what many people have done on Palantir, Hood, Rocket Lab, SoFi, all these names. That is just, it's very exciting. It's a thrilling journey. And it's very thrilling when you get to do it with an entire community. So it's really dope to kind of see some of that play out. App 11 right here, 628. That's up 4%. Circle 140. Enphase 3815. And MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy waking up, baby. Almost 350 on the day. Almost 350 on the day. Folks, Nvidia invested $5 billion into Intel. Let's get some analysis from someone who knows a little bit about those two companies. Jose, good morning.
Good morning, man. How's it going?
You are becoming a regular every day, Jose.
I'm happy. It means the semiconductor market is fun for others. It's always fun for me, but I'm happy when it's fun for others as well.
All right. So, I mean, tell me what you're thinking. Why did Nvidia put in $5 billion into Intel?
Well, yeah. So this is a pretty good news for Intel. I mean, they get $5 billion investment coming in, and one thing that Intel needs is cash to continue to expand their manufacturing. So first, you get the extra $5 billion. That is coming in, but you also get a great partner. Intel here and Nvidia are going to be co-developing some pretty cool chips that they mentioned. We still don't know if these chips are going to be manufactured at Intel Foundry, right? They kind of talk a little bit about the foundry side. They mentioned that they're going to manufacture, but we didn't hear much about it in the press release. we do have a live stream coming in, I think at around 1 p.m. Eastern time today, where they might show a little bit more. But I think it's the $5 billion, but you also get a great partner with NVIDIA. NVIDIA and Intel are going to co-develop some chips. They're going to be in the AI data center side. They're going to be using NVIDIA's GPU and Intel's x86 CPU. And some people might be wondering, Jose, isn't this something that they've done before? There's many companies out there that can buy an NVIDIA GPU, and they can also buy an Intel CPU and kind of create their own AI server like that. Why is this different? And the main reason this is different is because not only are you going to be using NVIDIA's GPU, you're also going to be using this interconnection solution that NVIDIA has, which is called NVLink. Now, NVLink, NVIDIA has done it with their platforms, but they haven't used it on an x86 CPU, which is something Intel has. So Intel is going to make custom x86 CPUs, and they're going to connect it with NVIDIA GPUs in this special interconnect way. And I'm just kind of going on a top level so everybody can kind of grasp it. And I think that's a big deal. I do think that is a big deal for the AI and data center market. Now, there are some stocks that are reacting to this, right? You did see kind of AMD stock down about 5%. Obviously, you're seeing some more competition, some friction.
Is that justified to you at all, AMD?
I think on a top level, yes. I think we're going to have to see more the live stream to see what the actual timeline is. If it's something that's 5 years out, then it's not justifiable. If they come out during the live stream and they say, look, we're actually releasing a product within a year or so, if it's something around 12 to 16, 18 months, then then that would justify the sell-off. If it's something in the long term, no. You also saw other companies go down. ARM went down about 4 or 5% on this news. The main reason is NVIDIA designs their own CPUs with ARM, the ARM architecture. But now the market is seeing maybe NVIDIA also wants to kind of continue in this x86 architecture, and you see some competition. Again, justifiable for this drop. On the top level approach, we would have to learn more information during the live stream. You also saw some equipment companies go up. ASML, I think, went up like 5% on this news. The main reason is Intel has been slowing down their manufacturing push because they needed more cash. They needed more demand. If this demand is products that they're going to build pretty soon, then they're going to most likely buy some more equipment players. So that's why kind of the equipment players are up. You also saw TSMC drop about, I think 2 to 3%. I think TSMC is the only drop that I don't think is deserved because it's not like TSMC is losing any customer from here. NVIDIA is going to continue to use TSMC for all their AI GPUs, and I'm glad it's pulling back up. I thought that sell-off was unjustifiable here for TSMC, as NVIDIA is not leaving TSM nowhere anytime soon. This is for some new unique products that potentially can go to Intel Foundry.
Jose, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
So everything you're saying makes sense with NVIDIA and NVLink and x86 architecture. My broader question is, why did they have to invest $5 billion to do a partnership with them? That feels a little bit like maybe Trump nudging Jensen.
Nudging. Hey. I think that definitely is part of it. Right. I wonder if in this investment is certain R&D is already part of the investment. Right. I wonder if like, hey, because you are investing some of the research and development we're going to give you with a lot of this connectivity is going to be at a better price.
Right.
I think the partnership is business first. I think the investment is questionable of why it's happening. The other thing is, in any market, you never want there to be more, you never want it to be a monopoly, right? So even though NVIDIA will continue to use TSMC, they will never want Intel's Foundry to fail because they always want a backup player. What happens if something bad happens to TSMC? If that's the only player, things go bad. So this is also, I think, a lifeline for that Foundry side. Even if they might not need them right now, it's at least keeping them alive. So if in the far future they might need Intel Foundry, At least they said, look, we helped you in your time of need. So I do think it's questionable, but there is a little bit of lifeline that Nvidia wants more than one foundry player, even if they're not going to use them right now. They still want them to continue to grow that competitive landscape, ends up making sure that none of these players ever have the crazy margins that Nvidia has had in the past year or so.
Right. I think that's very fair. And I think, at the end of the day, whether they needed to make the investment or not, it's good that they're supporting American industry. And, Jensen probably thinks that it makes sense from a lot of different angles. Guys, Jose's newsletter, whatthechipHappened.com. I'm assuming Jose's got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, week. So much happened this week. I mean, with the China news, with this, it's crazy. It's wild.
Yeah, so you can subscribe to that right there, whatthechipHappened.com.
Completely free. Yeah, completely free. And you get three news, not every day, but whenever something big happens. And during earnings season, you get a nice overview of some of the big earnings out there as well. So appreciate it. Appreciate you.
Here's the question. Would you buy Intel based on this news?
No, not. I mean, I'm not. If Intel succeeds, this is still a multi-bagger. If they continue to do well in the manufacturing, still a multi-bagger. I'd rather have other turnaround stories. And I think there's other stories out there for me that I'm pretty excited about in the semiconductor and AI space, that I would never be a short on Intel. I always make fun of Intel, though. I say it's someone else's favorite semiconductor company. It's never my favorite semiconductor company, and I'm going to stay by that. But I'm happy for all Intel shareholders for sure.
Micron up 7%.
What the
really?
Heck?
Yeah, that one's breaking out. Is there any logic on why you think that's happening?
I mean, the market is getting really excited about just more AI development. I mean, we saw that crazy RPO from Oracle. We're seeing massive amounts of investments happening globally. We saw that UK investments and anything in general is just going to need more chips. They've also seen a lot of great price target increases. I think Citi increased their price target last Friday. They do have earnings coming up. There's been a lot of chatter and whispers in the semiconductor underground channels that I'm in, that there could potentially be something bearish for Micron with their HBM4. That's definitely going to be a massive question coming out during the earnings. And I do believe that's September 23rd. So if they say those rumors are true, there could be some negative action for Micron. If not, then I think the stock continues to do really well.
And overall, you think the AMD dip is justified, but would you buy this dip? Or would you
it's justifiable, I think, right now in the optics of the deal. I think once we get more, ask me again, 1 o'clock once the event happens, or once we see the timeline, I think it could change depending on what the timeline is. I'm still very bullish.
Intel doing an event today at 1 o'clock?
Yes. So Intel and I believe Jensen. So Lee Bhutan and I think Jensen are gonna go at 10 p.m. Pacific. I don't know what time that's Eastern. I think it's 1
PM,
maybe
1 p.m.
Yeah. So they're gonna have a quick stream discussing everything, and I wonder if I'm hoping they provide more of a roadmap, because the press release was just very top level. I hope they go a little bit more in depth, and that can kind of sway my answer about this. But I mean, AMD is still doing great. I mean, in April, it was sitting at $80. It's still up 100% from the April lows. It could just be a cool, chill period for AMD. Buying right now, very small dollar cost average for me if I was for AMD.
Got it. Love it. Jose, thank you for analysis. Jose's YouTube, I'm putting right here in the chat, and I'm assuming you'll be streaming this event.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I don't know. I'm pretty tired. I'm not as young as you, man. I'm not as young as you. I don't know how you do it. Do it 24/7. No, I'm not that much older. I'm 33.
Okay, you're not that much older. Okay, real quick.
Are you in your 30s? Wait, sorry. You're in your 30s?
No, I'll be 28 next month.
Oh, no, yeah, you're okay.
Real quick, last question, because they're asking for it. Navitas, any quick updated thoughts on this one?
Nothing since I've talked about it in the past. I mean, this is just one that is going to have momentum overall. Anytime, I think right now it's just more trading on momentum. The actual results from any NVIDIA partnerships will take a few quarters to really see in the financials. So right now, I would say it's more of a trading equity opposed to a trading asset, opposed to a long-term hold, because I do believe last earnings, they shared that it's only a few $1 billion opportunity for 2030s. And I think they are going to come out this quarter and say something similar, which could create some negative price action. So short term, I think this is more a trading vehicle. Vehicle is what I was looking for. Long term, if you are extremely patient, it has the optionality to be a multi-bagger.
Okay, final question. Do you know what the Motley Crew is?
The Motley Crew. No, I don't know.
Thank you. See, it's not just me. Apparently, it's some rock
Is that a
band or
movie?
something.
Okay. I don't know.
See, it is what it is. Steve can't just get mad at me. All right. I love it. Jose,
All right,
thanks for
man.
being on. We'll get you on
Thank
later
you
this
for
week.
having me. All right. Take care, man. Peace out.
Take care. Later. Dude, Jose saved me on that one. Jose saved me on that one. All right. So he's bullish on this NVIDIA Intel deal. He thinks AMD could be a buy the dip. And seems like there is momentum overall for NVIDIA's collaboration. Bitmine right here, 62, grab 650 rejected, 637 back there. So we got to see now if people come and buy the dip. Even at 637, it's still up 4% on the day. So breaking 650 was going to be tough. Let's see if people come in and if there's actually momentum to continue maintaining its ability to hold. But right now it's 635. NVIDIA finally getting a little bit of a move at 175. And then Hoodie has not been able to break all-time highs yet. Has not been able to break all-time highs yet at 122, 122.39. Y'all are uncultured. Dude, I'm going to listen to this freaking band later today. Motley Crue. Oh, that's Tommy Lee. Oh, that's why Tom Lee says in his Twitter thing he's not a drummer. Okay, I'll listen to these guys. I will listen. By the way, folks, for the first time since June, we are now number one in the stock draft. Matt Money's at 25.37 and Amit is at 25.74. Very slight lead. We still got Duolingo that's down 40% on the entire portfolio, but we have finally inched away just a little from Matt Money. And we are first in the draft. Tanner's at 18, Steve's at 7, and Chris is at 10.84. And that's what we got for the stock draft right now. Hoodie right there, 122.54. They're talking about himself in third person. Yes, that's how I'm referencing myself. We just got to see if we can keep it. We got to see if we have the chance to keep it. How's Quantum doing? Are we still holding up today? Everything taking a little bit of a red candle, but nothing too bad. D-Wave 23. D-Wave, I mean, it was at 23.75, now at 23.10. I think that's all-time highs, right? Yeah, all-time highs. All-time highs today on D-Wave. Shout out to Tess in the chat. She's been buying this sucker under $1. It's a 23x for her. And so that has obviously helped her portfolio over the past couple of years, definitely in 2025. S&P right here, just under 664. Again, that's a new all-time high. And then AMD right now at 154. Let me see if Trump and the other guy are still talking. Let me pull this up right here. And then they might be taking Q&A. Are they? Yes. All right, they're taking Q&A. Let's pull it up.
British leadership and French leadership stepping up with military planning in the seas, in the sky, on the ground, and ramping up what we do with the Ukrainians themselves. And of course, that taken with an American guarantee is now an example, I think, of the challenge of Europe stepping up to the plate, which it has done in the last few months, to show through what we and the French have done, that we're prepared to take the lead in this and take the necessary measures.
But that's a war that could have been a third world war, and I don't think we're going to be there now. But that was heading to a third world war, and what a shame it is. What a shame it is.
Mr. President, do you want to call some of the...
I would love to call a few of them. Bev, do you want to have a question?
I've got to come back.
Bev Turner, GB News. Thank you. Having been in DC for a few weeks, it's really interesting to see how you run the country as a proud Christian leader. And it really begs the question to the Prime Minister, if you don't mind, are we still a Christian country? But also...
when you say we, are you talking here or...
Here. The UK. I'm still British. I might live in America. I'm still British.
But also... I can't give you that answer.
That's for the Prime Minister. But also... despite what we talked about in Scotland a few weeks ago, we still have 12,000 people a year here being arrested for social media posts, for free speech violations. Does that not remain an important area that there is still a lot of disagreement on?
I wonder how Trump's going to answer that, because obviously Trump doesn't like that, but he's sitting with the prime minister. So let's see how he kind of navigates that question.
I'd like to have you answer that.
Yeah, look, I mean, in terms of a Christian country, I was christened. So that is, my church has been all my life. And we are, that is wired into our informal constitution. Of course, we celebrate many other faiths as well. And I'm really proud that we're able to do so as a country. And on free speech, that has long lived in this country, free speech. It's one of the founding values of the United Kingdom, and we protect it jealously and fiercely, and always will. And we will bear down on any limits on free speech. I draw a limit between free speech and the speech of those that want to peddle paedophilia and suicide social media to children, and therefore I'm all for free speech. I'm also for protecting children from things that will harm them, paedophiles, those that peddle suicide, which had a terrible consequence for individual, particularly teenagers. And so that's the balance we strike. But we have had freedom of speech in this country for a very long time, and we will always protect it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Brian, please.
All right. So Trump not answering that question. Trump has already publicly said he disagrees with the approach that the UK has had on this for a while. It looks like he's not going to give his thoughts there. AMD right here, 154. That's up 3%. Looks like they're asking more cultural questions versus economic questions. So we'll see if we get any other juice from those questions, but more so about the two countries and their different sociological tendencies. Palantir right here, 174, and then Hoodie, 122. Market's chilling out a little bit, and we're not seeing too much upside or downside. Let me pull up David Tepper. Remember this guy in September of 24 said buy everything in China. Obviously, it has worked out. He's now also big in UNH. He's taking some profits on China. He was live on CNBC. Let's get his thoughts on kind of what he's thinking about the state of the markets currently right now.
Now we're up big.
Now
We're pretty well. I mean,
it worked.
Kind of, yeah, it's been big. I mean, if like Alibaba's up a lot, so it worked pretty well. So I mean, we're having a pretty good year.
Where are we? And it's a good day for you to. Why did you want to come in today? Because
I just came in because I felt bad
about missing.
And I'm in New York, the whole city, and I felt bad about missing your 30th anniversary.
Okay,
which is a big deal.
But it is a Fed. The Fed cut yesterday. First,
yeah,
is it the beginning of it?
I noticed it. I did.
You were watching this morning. You watched Frank Holland talk about it. Is it the beginning of an easing cycle?
Well, look, I mean, they eased yesterday, and I think the market knows there's another ease coming. Could be two more ease coming. That's what's in. I don't know what's in there this morning, but and you're easing, at least those eases are into as you just saw numbers out, not in a bad economy. And look, I don't know how long that lasts, and we're not at cheap levels in this market. On the other hand, when they eased after long-term capital and then they used to get into Y2K, I mean, we weren't in a bad economy then, and the market went a little bit nuts. I'm not saying the market's going to be nuts now, but, and by the way, the other side of that was a disaster, okay? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't think another ease matters, as far as being too easy. It's going to be a little bit restrictive. I don't know if they do too. Beyond that, it's going to be a little tricky, I think, because you got to be careful not to make things too hot, to have the other side of the mountain, which was really freaking ugly, in 2000, in 2001, etc.
You haven't been on since Trump got elected.
That's not true. I was on last year talking about China.
Was that after Trump got elected?
That was just last year. Was it last year after Trump? I can't remember when he got elected. It might have been before Trump got elected, actually.
Yeah, I don't think you haven't talked about tariffs, industrial policy, the big beautiful bill. Do any of those go into your calculus for what you do?
Look, by the way, Tepper, he owns the Panthers. I found that out through the chat now that you guys have been saying that. So yes, this guy owns the Carolina Panthers, and he's worth $23 billion. I didn't know he was worth $23 billion. I thought he was worth like $4 or $5 billion, but this is one of the wealthier hedge fund managers that's out there.
I'm not like a lot of, classically trained, we had honors in economics and college economists. I don't love tariffs. On the other hand, I don't think 10% tariffs, at least at that level, make a difference.
Okay.
And there's something to be said for having a little bit of, in an AI sort of world where you may have, a little less employment, have a little protection, or having people protecting people here. And the same thing with immigration policy. You could argue that if you do have eventual layoffs because of AI. So I can be fine with it. I don't love the 25% or the 50% tariffs. I think they're a little bit destructive. But quite frankly, 5 or 10%, or which are a little bit higher. I understand that. I don't think it really makes a difference, and it may be kind of constructive where we are right now.
You think it's a slippery slope to some type of state-sponsored industry by taking a stake in Intel and having Nvidia, pay royalties on stuff we let them sell to China, or any of those things bother you? Or
I don't love it when it comes from, and neither do you, because you've made comments in the past when it comes from Democrats, and I don't love it when it comes from Republicans.
Right.
I mean, does it matter if it's not done widespread? Again, no. So it's, to be consistent about it, I don't love it on either side when it happens, because you take away from the natural kind of, process.
There's a great American economy, and it's the greatest ever in the world. Does that, and AI, do those two things just sum up why I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but are you excited about the stock market for the next couple of years?
Look, excited.
Curious what he says. How does he think about it? We're at all-time highs. Does he see a bit of a multi-year bull run?
I'm not like, there was a phrase I used, about, I guess it was, you said it was a term used in the Navy, balls to the walls in 2010.
No, it's actually fine to use that because it's a throttle.
I know,
it has nothing to do with
I know.
testicles.
So we decided it was you said that word. Who told you to say that word?
Testicles is a medical term.
Anyways, so
it's a medical term.
Anyways, no, I look, I'm constructive because of the easing right now, but I'm also miserable because of the levels. Does that make sense? So
is it just seven stocks though, and everything else is cheap?
What's that?
Is it just 7 stocks and everything else is cheap? When they do these weighted,
no, it's not though. I mean,
everything, nothing's cheap anymore.
No, the other 470, 493 are like 20 times.
They're 20 times.
Maybe a little lower than that, but they're not cheap by historical standards. Now, they're cheap pockets. I mean, if we do get rates lower, some of the housing-related stocks are maybe cheap, but they're not showing up in earnings right now because they've had tough quarters and they're still.
Okay, so lots of different idioms and metaphors used by Tepper there. But essentially, he says he's bullish because the Fed is easing. Now, it's not like a buy everything type of bullish like he was in September 2024 or back in 2010. But he still remains constructive because if the Fed is on an easing cycle, then likely that is not going to be the worst thing in the world. Here's Trump getting asked a question, I believe, about TikTok, and we'll get an update on that.
Chinese to sell TikTok to an American buyer.
Yeah.
Are the Americans going to have to come up with their own algorithm, or are they going to continue to use the successful but addictive Chinese algorithm?
So what we're doing, and we're speaking to President Xi on Friday to see if we can finalize something on TikTok, because there is tremendous value, and I hate to give away value, but I like TikTok. It helped get me elected. In fact, Charlie said, "Sir, you ought to get on TikTok. You'd be great." I said, "Really? Tell me about TikTok." And we, as you know, we did unbelievably well with youth, like at a level that no Republican has ever even dreamt of. And in what, look, I think we won it for a lot of reasons, but that was a reason we won the election by such a big number. TikTok has tremendous value. The United States has that value in its hand because we're the ones that have to approve it. I specifically get the right to approve it. The people that are investing in it are among the greatest investors in the world, the biggest, the richest, and they'll do a great job. And we're doing it in conjunction with China. But we are getting, the United States is getting a tremendous fee plus. I call it a fee plus for just making the deal. And I don't want to throw that out the window. I can say this, that you'll have a lot of very unhappy youth. And I use TikTok very legitimately, very straight, just statements every day, little statements, short statements. "Sir, make it short, please." And TikTok Jack, we call him. It was pretty good. Did a good job for me, I guess. But no, I'd rather reap the benefits. I mean, the kind of money we're talking about is very substantial, and it'll be owned by all American investors and, the best investors and the, very rich people and companies are going to be owning it. Very, very straight, very legitimate companies, and really companies that love America. So they're going to be owning it. It's a big thing. And on a much bigger scale, and probably that's why we were able to get that, but on a much bigger scale, we're pretty close to a deal. We may do an extension with China, but it's an extension based on the same terms that we have right now, which are pretty good terms.
And my question for Prime Minister Starmer, if you feel so strongly about officially recognizing Palestine for statehood, why are you waiting for President Trump to leave the country? Why can't you just do it right?
What about now? What about now? How about now? Dude, what about now? Okay, now it's better. What about now? Dude, bro, that was not me. I did nothing there. That was freaking StreamYard. That was not me, bro. That was not the Wi-Fi. That was. Is this mic dead or something? Like, no, it's plugged in. Dude, no, it was not me, bro. That was ridiculous. There's no Wi-Fi. It just stopped working. It just genuinely. Okay, I'm gonna switch back to my regular mic, and if it's still not working, then it's StreamYard. Okay, let's see. Let's see if this is working. I'm testing it on my phone. If I hear myself, then it's muted. If not, yeah, it's back to normal. It's back. It's good. It's good. It's good. Wi-Fi, bro. It's the Wi-Fi. You got to go out of Zuck's book and blame the Wi-Fi. But it wasn't the Wi-Fi. That was just random, bro. It was just random. Okay, we're back. Anyway, what I was saying is Trump and the prime minister are getting into a bunch of political stuff there. But the update on TikTok for China is that it's really good that Trump and Xi are talking on Friday, even if they're talking about TikTok, because hopefully they get to talk about NVIDIA and all the other issues, and we can get a really meaningful framework for a trade deal, hopefully by the end of the month, if not by the end of October, which would be very bullish. That's all I had to say. But, bro, that has not happened in a long time, bro. Like a long time. We have not had the mic just die. Like sometimes, you know, like I sound like a fish sometimes. There's inside, outside. There's a reverb. Like like that has happened more often than not, unfortunately. But like full on mute has not happened, I think, in like a year, maybe longer than that. How long have you been doing this? Dude, that really wasn't my fault. That was random. See, this is what I'm saying, bro. That's why I have sympathy for Zucks, because it's like, it probably wasn't Zuck's fault that those demos didn't work yesterday, but it is what it is. How long was that? Was that a minute of being muted? It had to be like a minute, right? Damn, you guys basically saw me freaking like acting like a mime or something. What do they call those guys? The mimes that don't talk, but they move. Yeah. It's mime. Yeah, that's basically what I sounded like. Zuck sabotaged you, exactly. It was not 3+ minutes, okay? It was not really, it's not 3 minutes. 3 minutes is aggressive. 3 minutes would have been pretty bad. Market, the other thing I was saying is that pretty much everything that has either gotten a little bit of momentum has held that momentum, maybe given back a little bit of it. And if you're red, you're still red on the day. So like, you know, Palantir, Nvidia, Hood, Grab, they were higher than they were right now. They gave back a little bit. If they're up 5%, now you're up 3%. So you gave back 2%, but you're not giving back the entirety of your gains today. And if we end out the day with some of these names holding, you know, 3-4% instead of 5-7%, I still think that's pretty bullish. And that's not the worst thing in the world. That's why it was not 5 minutes, bro. It was not 5 minutes. That would be, hold on. I want to go back to see what was it like. What was this like? Hold on. Oh my goodness. Look at this. Yeah, I think maybe it was like 2 minutes, not 5. Look at this. This is ridiculous. This is so bad. Yeah, I didn't see the chat. That's why you got to have the chat open on the side every time. Okay, cool. So that's what we got there. I think the Trump press conference is almost done. We got some of the updates around tariffs. Let's see if we can get some other updates right here. Or are they still going? I think they're still going. Okay, let's get back to see if we have some business questions.
Solutions to the world's most intractable conflicts. You have invested much of your time and effort in Ukraine, but even as you seek to broker a deal, President Putin is escalating the war. He's firing drones into.
Okay, so it's more Russia stuff. Well, I mean, we already know what Trump's going to say. We already heard him say he's, you know, mad that Putin is not cooperating with them, which is obvious. I mean, anyone would be mad about that. Wow, Elizabeth Warren, she's live, and she said rate cuts by themselves aren't going to fix the problems that Donald Trump is causing. It's really hard to take her seriously about this because she was one of the main senators that sent a letter to Jay Powell back in 2024 September about like why he wasn't lowering rates. So she's wanted these rates to be down for a long time. And the fact that she's not happy about that, I don't know. It's a bit weird.
In the wrong direction. You know, I'm reminded that the head of the Fed, Jerome Powell, said last month that the Fed would have cut interest rates back in February, except for the concern over the chaos that Donald Trump was causing to the economy because of tariffs. And so that means we've had, for 7 months now, families paying more on credit cards and car loans and payday loans. And I'm just concerned right now about the economy overall. And I recognize that rate cuts by themselves are not going to fix the problems that Donald Trump is causing.
We had, Senator, and I thought about it yesterday when I knew you were going to be on. I asked this question to the leader Jeffries when he was on. I'm going to give you a shot at the same question, and it'll take me about 30 seconds, but I'll be as quick as I can. The inflation rate of 2.9 is still above where the Fed would like it to be, but it was as high as 9% under Joe Biden. Right. The labor market may be showing signs of weakness, but unemployment is still 4.3%. Real wages are finally growing. The Dow, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ are all hitting record highs. We've had major trade deals signed and hundreds of billions of dollars of foreign investment coming into the country, while the southern border is now secure and Iran's nuclear ambitions have been sidetracked likely for years. Right. Where is the calamity? What would you point to?
It's a fair question. I guess she's going to argue income inequality, which is what she tends to go back to. But I mean, it's a fair question. It's like, hey, markets are up. Consumers doing okay. Labor market's not the best, but it's definitely not the worst. Unemployment's at 4.3. Got rates that are coming down. What exactly are you the most upset about when it comes to the economy?
So look, I want to make 2 points here. The first one is the Fed and the rate cuts in the economy is all about direction. And yes, coming out of the pandemic, when Donald Trump was near the end of his first term, we had very high inflation, we had very high unemployment, and that was a problem. But it was down, 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 down on the trend lines. Now, those trend lines have reversed again, and we are seeing more weakening in the job numbers, and we are seeing prices tick back up. Plus, Donald Trump is claiming to have collected billions and billions and billions of dollars in tariff money, and that's going to keep pushing prices up. So the concern is the directionality. The point.
It's not what Jay Powell said yesterday. I know that's the consensus argument that tariffs are going to increase prices. That's not what PPI showed, and that's not what Jay Powell said. So, I mean, we got to really see if that's the concern. I mean, if that was the case, I don't think the XRT retailer ETF would be up 10% year to date on the fear that retailers would be increasing prices. So far, I know that's the conventional argument, but we haven't really seen that in the data is increasing. And if it is increasing, it's not that much to the point where consumers are pulling back. And we literally saw that with retail sales yesterday being 0.5% better than expected.
Is the Fed is always trying to look at where the economy is going and trying to direct it. But there's a second point here, too. And I appreciate that Wall Street is doing very well, that we're watching incomes go up for a lot of folks at the top. But you really need to be looking at the numbers for what's happening to the rest of America. Look how big the consumer debt load is right now and how it has grown.
Yeah, but that consumer debt load gets eased if Powell cuts rates. So she's talking about the bifurcation of the economy of too many people are rich, too many people are poor. And there's like this extreme upside and downside, which is a fair argument. And Chris was talking about that yesterday. But one of the ways to help those people on the bottom is to lower rates. So that's not really an argument for why the Fed lowering rates is not fixing a problem that Trump is causing, because one of the biggest problems for low income people is getting the cost of borrowing capital to come down, which is what Powell's doing.
By $4 trillion over the past 6 years. This is not pandemic money. This is coming out now. More and more families cannot make it to the end of the month without borrowing money. Look at what's happening right now with car loans. More people are in default. More people are seeing their cars taken away. And for a lot of people, that means they can't go ahead and go to work. Look at what's happening to consumer sentiment. People who do the work every day, not the folks who show up to hobnob with the King of England, but the people on the ground here in America who keep this country running. They are telling us that they are not seeing an economy that works. And we need to pay attention to that. We need to have economic policies that are not just made for a handful of people who can afford to pay $1 million for a dinner with Donald Trump or fly over to England and hobnob with the royals. We need an economy that's working for small businesses, working for medium-sized businesses, working for people who do the work of keeping this economy going. And that's where the problem is.
The age-old problem. And I agree with you. It's a cover of the Wall Street Journal today. There really are two economies, but at the same time that we think about what we should spend money on, additional money on, you just mentioned how we're at.
All right, so income inequality, that's the argument. And look, that is an issue. Like, there's no denying income inequality is a problem. And yes, obviously wealthy people and the upper class benefit more from lower rates than people in the bottom class. But if you have to buy a car and you are middle income or lower income, it helps to not have to pay a 7% APR. And the only way to really make that happen is to get rates to come down. If you want to be more competitive as a small business owner, your cost of capital coming down really helps for you to be able to potentially hire more people or get more equipment. Like, rates coming down definitely helps rich people more, but it also obviously does relieve somewhat of a burden. But the broader problem here is that if our argument is income inequality, the same income inequality we're seeing in the Trump era, we saw in the Biden era, we saw in the Obama era. Like, Democrat or Republican, income inequality has been an issue for the past 30 years in the United States, and the bifurcation of that has not changed. It's only gotten greater. And I think all of us in the chat and in this community kind of take a practical approach, saying, hey, the politicians are not going to save us, no matter where you're from. Imagining that the politicians are going to save you is a loser mentality. I'm sorry, it just is. And you can disagree with me on that, but if you think Warren or Bernie is going to save you, it's not going to be the way you get financially free. The only thing you can do is work your ass off, try to make as much as you can, and then invest it in the right company so that that equity, that capital has a chance to grow. Very few people have that mindset. And as a result, I think that's why a lot of us say, we can't trust Warren, Bernie, Trump. We can't trust anybody. We can only trust ourselves. But her complaining about income inequality to me is nonsensical, because we've had income inequality for 15, 20 years and nothing's been done about it. I don't even think that's a political statement, bro. Like, for income inequality is not liberal or Republican. Income inequality is a reality of the growing divide in society that a Democrat or Republican has not been able to fix. Like, we haven't had Obama fix it. We haven't had Trump fix it. We haven't had Biden fix it. So I think expecting it to get fixed is just going to be hard to imagine. Here's some pictures with CARP in the UK signing some deals. This is tweeted from the Ministry of Defense. So there you go. You got CARP and one of the head executives, or one of the head ministers of defense in the MOD, officially signing their deal with Palantir. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Yeah, dude, Trump or Biden. I think 2 years ago is when I really came to the conclusion, ASML, by the way, doing amazing, that the politicians are not going to save you. It's quite liberating, actually, when you realize the politicians can't save you. It's very liberating, because if you're in the mindset that the politicians are actually going to do so, that they're actually invested in your well interest, I mean, goodness gracious, Elizabeth Warren's worth like, what, 30 million? I mean, Bernie's got a book coming out. Like, it's just, come on, dude. Like, it's very hard for me to believe that these figures that have all this power and influence and capital care that much about the little guy. It's just tough to imagine that's the case. And a lot of their policies have not really reflected how much they care about that. So I don't know. The answer is building your own capital, building your own equity. And that's very, very hard to do. But that is, I think, one of the only ways to at least subjectively resolve some of the issues with income inequality. Hood back over 123. That's up 3.7. Got 40 cents to get back above, hopefully, all-time highs. Zavi, thank you for the 59 super chat. I lost my race at a world champs, but at least my grab is up. Thank you, Amit. First of all, Zavi, thank you for being here. And thank you for being part of the channel. You lost your race at a world champs. Are you talking about like actually running? Like that type of a race? Dude, I have so much respect for like the Usain Bolts and those people that run. I mean, that is so hard to run competitively. That is not easy. So yeah, at least your grab is up, but thank you for being here. A lot of respect for people that can run. Nick, thanks for the super chat. Amit, any thoughts on Celsius? I missed this one. At 18 with the Alani acquisition, I didn't really see how they were planning to scale the brand. And then when they acquired Rockstar energy drink from Pepsi 2 weeks ago, it's been a hell of a story, and it's outperforming pretty much the entire market. Celsius year to date is up 106%. I don't know if I would buy it here, but for those that took a chance on it, has not done too bad. If there are laws that will benefit the rich, it makes it harder for smaller guys. If laws are written to help little guys working hard to get there, will be much easier. I don't disagree. I think there are obviously laws that can help rich people and people that are lower income. That 1000% is correct. The problem is the idea of expecting or hoping that those laws will actually be implemented on either side is hard to grapple with. Maybe it's just my skepticism as I've gotten older, but I just don't trust that'll be the case. Because you just got to look at the incentives of the people that are making those laws. And when you come to that conclusion, then it's like, all right, I got to figure this out myself. And thankfully, we as a community have been able to do a lot over the past couple of years figuring it out. But I don't know, dude. I don't think Warren's going to save anyone. But she will complain about it. I don't think Trump's going to save anyone either, but he will complain about it. Like it's the same thing, left or right. NVIDIA right here, trying to get to 176. Palantir just below 175. And then Hoodie, she keeps cracking 123. She's not breaking above those levels. Iran is down 2.5% today. Are all the data center plays down? Nebius, that's up a little bit. CoreWeave is kind of sucked. CoreWeave also flat on the day. Resistance on hood, that's a good question. I should check that. Reddit's also flying. Yeah, I mean, if you're in Reddit, congrats. That's a big one. Let's look at the heat map again and see how that one is doing. You're getting healthcare, financials, and defensives to start going green again. Tech obviously has held on to the green. Hoodie 124 resistance. Let's see. I don't think there's a ton of it. 124, 16,000 shares. 16,000, which is not too bad. Mid 2028. Dude, I will never run for office, bro. It's such a losing game. I do have a lot of respect for people that run for office, but like your entire life is out there. And I mean, I don't know. Just being a politician to me is not as fun as being in the business community. But I do have a lot of respect for people that do it. I just don't think I ever would go that route. Santiago says, my partner is 43K and we actually just crossed the 100K a couple weeks ago. Congratulations. Congratulations. That's first 100K. It is not easy to get. And once you get it, it really does feel like a major accomplishment and sets the pathway for the future. Reddit right here, 281 up 5%. And I say this every time, but again, whenever I see these first 100K, first 50K comments, again, it's the same stat I repeat, but grab right here, trying to get back to 640. Most Americans do not have $500 in a savings account. Like, you know, the investor class is a different breed of people. Whether your portfolio is 5,000, 10,000, 500,000, 5 million, the majority of Americans are not financially literate. They don't know how to save their capital. They don't know how to invest their capital, and they don't care about investing. And so being part of, and you're not even just Americans, right? Most humans, being part of any part of a community that gets you to just think in a totally differentiated way around finances. When people say, people say money doesn't make you happy. First of all, I deeply agree with that. Like, money does not actually give you happiness, but money makes you more comfortable to get to a pathway to have more happiness in your life. Like, happiness also comes from a sense of security, a sense of comfortability, a sense of saying, hey, if I want to buy my mom something really nice for her birthday, I don't have to stress about getting her what I want to get her, right? Like that is a form of happiness, providing for other people, serving other people, especially if you have kids, family, significant other. That is a significant contributor to happiness. And money is what is needed to get there. So I don't think money can solve the problems of like not having purpose in life, but it absolutely makes it easier to just live, which contributes to happiness. And that part, it just can't be denied. Yeah, it gives you more time with your family, all of those things. I mean, it really, really does help. CrowdStrike, dude, that bad boy is moving. 491. I didn't know the upgrades were that bullish, but I guess they were. And that's what's helping it. Money's not everything. Not having it is. That's a fact. That is a fact. Money is not having it. Money is not everything, but not having it is. I would agree. All right. What else do we got? What other headlines do we got? It's already 11:14. Didn't even see that. This is a quick morning. We talked about Trump. I don't think Trump is still live. Oh, let's listen to Tepper and his thoughts on Nvidia. Does he still own this bad boy? Let's see. I know he's heavy in China still. Nvidia. Yeah, wow. He added 483% to his position in Q2. He's got 1.75 million shares. So let's see what he's thinking about Nvidia.
I always, it's what keeps my position from being too large because of worried about different things that can be there. On the other hand, look, you do have the same AI drivers there. You've had some movement in that market because people are realizing you have the same sort of things with AI there. And, some of the stocks like Baba and I guess Baidu yesterday, with you're also making chips now, and they've been pushing it. So they're doing it, right? And not, maybe they're like the H20 NVIDIA chip or something like that. That quality. So, I mean, I think the move has been good, and the earnings, unlike here, are still relatively low. I mean, you're talking, low teens versus where we are. So it's like that. So I understand, it's not like it was. It was ridiculous when, last year. It was single digits. So you're not a single digits now, but you're not, given what the growth rate is and the multiples, you're still at relatively interesting levels if you didn't have those other concerns, certainly. So, I think that.
Have you been holding Nvidia all the way?
I haven't held it all the way. I do own Nvidia, but I go back and forth a little bit because I do, I will trade a little bit. We've always had some Nvidia position, but not the same size. So, anyways,
the market seems to want to look for the next highly torqued play to the same trends, right? I mean, you had Broadcom gets its run, Oracle gets its run. Is there enough to go around, do you think, for everybody that's now?
Look, like I said before, if you didn't believe you had the other China issues you had, now that the Chinese can do whatever they want with their own stock market, that would be the one that you already had a big move there. Okay, but on an earnings basis, which you referred to before, you can make an argument that you still have a lot more there.
All right, so he's still bullish. Nvidia, Oracle, AMD, the semis. It's not like he's not bullish, but he has been apparently going back and forth. He did add 500% to the position. Maybe he's trimmed since then, but it doesn't seem like Tepper necessarily doesn't like the stock. Yeah, anytime anyone says NVIDIA to me, it's always a little bit of like, do they really care about NVIDIA? Or like, whenever I hear the NVIDIA, it's like, I used to call it that, I think like 3 years ago. And it's like, that's not how you say it. Anthropic is spending $1 billion over the next year on reinforcement learning gyms to train their AI models on simulated apps like Zendesk and Salesforce. Wow. We are seeing the large language models start to incorporate themselves deeply into the ERP systems and CRM systems of the enterprise. And I mean, that probably is one of their next growth curves. I mean, I think all of them obviously want to get into the Fortune 1000 and obviously the consumer space, and those business models are strong, but getting into enterprise, I mean, we've seen Palantir's multiple. When you're in the enterprise and you're going to produce results and you're profitable, the street really loves it because that's juicy reoccurring revenue that's hard to commoditize. And I think the GPTs, the Anthropics, they're all thinking of how they can get there as well. PFAS, thank you for the $100 super chat. Thank you for getting me into Hood and Grab. What do you think of Reddit long-term? I think Reddit is a strong company, and I'm saying that based on analyzing their growth last quarter. They had a partnership with Google yesterday to extend some of their AI training models because they have all the data. Reddit is one of the largest search terms on Google. The problem is the thing was at 100, now it's at 280. So I don't know if this entry really is the best risk reward. I would say I missed it, and I'm not that interested in getting in at these prices. But if you're in it, I don't see a reason to necessarily sell it. And there's a lot of those stocks, right? When you're in it, you don't see a reason to sell if it goes up. But if you're not in it, do you really have a good risk reward to buy? Not often, right? Especially when it makes a massive run. So yeah, I like it long term, but I don't know if this is the best entry that you can get on it. Tony says, I came from poverty. My mom was on drugs and welfare, no father, moving every year. I was told I wasn't going to do anything. I graduated college, served in the military, single dad. Now I have a $500,000 portfolio. Congratulations. Congratulations. It is not easy to get to $500,000, especially when you go through a lot of shit that you've gone through in life. First of all, thank you for your service in the military as well. And it's the beauty of the markets. It's the beauty of just thinking that there is an opportunity outside of your 9 to 5 and being willing to take the risk. It's not easy to do, but when you do it on a day like this, it really, really, really does end up paying off. Tabby, thanks for the $10 super chat. Admit, do you keep your wealth a secret to relatives, friends? How do you manage those relationships? People knowing you have money can sometimes make things weird. Yeah, I've been realizing this over the past couple months. The only people I tell are my parents, because I'm very close to my parents, and we have a very intimate relationship, so they're able to I have no fear in telling or anything like that. Also, like we're very transparent with each other. Same thing with my sister. But friends has been difficult. Because you just don't want to tell your friends this type of stuff unless you're super close to them, right? And like, first of all, it's none of your friends' business. It's none of your business how your friends' finances are doing. But it's one of those things where it can get awkward, right? And so I think you default on not telling people stuff. It's just better to kind of keep a lot of that stuff private. Now, and that's why I want to start the YouTube public portfolio, right? Because obviously I don't want to show my full portfolio online. I think like most people don't necessarily do that, just out of privacy, safety, all that stuff. But like what Joseph Carlson has a public portfolio, I think Jeremy has a public portfolio. That's a great idea. And I've not done that over the past couple of years, but I definitely want to do that going into 2026. And that way we can kind of like see trade. We can do our earnings trades on that. If we actually get earnings 4 times a year, who knows if that's going to happen. We can do our selling options on that. We can, go long certain names that, might be a bit more speculative on that. So that'll be one of the things we can all do together. Yeah, we can buy our Grinder shares on. How's Grinder doing? We haven't looked at that in a minute. 50, dude, this one's kind of not been that. It was at 24. It's kind of sucked for a while. Again, I called it at 12. Now it's at 15. It did get to 24, but I guess there's not enough of a community that's buying their subscriptions. Well, they are growing 30%. I just don't know if they're going to continue that growth. The allegations resume. Even relatives get jealous. Yeah, I mean, jealousy is a whole other thing to deal with, dude. Like, I don't know. I've not faced that personally, jealousy or something like that. And the cool thing I love about FinTwit, for all the random toxicity nonsense that's there, like one of the best things about FinTwit is that when you can show a good trade, or when you can show you made this profit or this or that, or you show a massive 7-figure gain on a position, like people are so supportive on FinTwit. It's one of the unique things about FinTwit because everyone wants to get to that level. So like everyone wants to see, oh, XYZ person made 45,000 on this stock and they entered in through this strategy and this was their thesis behind it. It just like, it's a very conducive environment to learning, not feeling jealous of how you can do the same, because everyone on FinTwit, at least to an extent, has a growth mentality of like, hey, I don't need to take from the other person, but I want to learn their strategies so I can eventually do it for myself. And the only way to get to that mentality is if you become an investor, because you start to stop feeling bad for yourself that you don't have as much as this person and start thinking, how can I get there? Like when Triple V texts me that he buys 4 million shares of Grab, I'm not like, oh, woe is me. I don't have 4 million shares of Grab. I'm thinking, hey, how do I get to his mentality, his level, his ability to achieve these milestones? What can I learn from him from a mindset perspective, a technical perspective to get there one day? And then the common cliche, which is that perfect is the enemy of good, or good is the enemy of perfect, whatever, however, what is that? Dude, of course. We got to end the show. So Wi-Fi, of course, messing up the metaphor. Perfect is the enemy of good. I had it right the first time. You cannot compare yourself to someone else. It's really hard. It just ruins a lot of, your mental stamina. So yeah, I would say it's the good thing about FinTwit and this whole community is no one gets jealous. People just want to know how they can do it themselves. That is the most important thing. Rango says, from depth of 70,000 to multi 7-figure net worth in 8 years since I landed here. Wow. Congrats. Rango, he came from India and he ended up working at some tech companies. He used to work at Tesla. He's a good friend of mine. From debt of 70,000 to now a multi 7-figure net worth. It is possible. It is very, very possible. Grabby grab 631. All right. So we're going to see throughout the day if we can get back to 650. But it's stuck right here at 631. Amit, did you work a job before investing to get the capital? So again, I had a consulting firm. I don't operate it anymore. And that consulting firm was basically like a job, but it wasn't a job. I just had one major client that essentially like was the majority of the revenue for the consulting firm. So yes, for about 4 years, I drove up and down New Jersey from central Jersey to northern Jersey, 60 miles up and down 5 days a week. And how much, dude, I think I was every month, I think I was making at the time after expenses, like $5,000. I think that's what I was making. And that was how I built up the majority of the Palantir position. Like it just, whatever I got, I didn't have to pay rent, thankfully, at home. But I did have some other expenses and student loans, all that stuff. So after whatever was left, which was probably like $2,000 a month that was left, maybe 2,500, just went into Palantir. And so, yeah, those are the early days, bro. Those are the early days. Everyone goes through it. Everyone has to freaking go through it. Like, it seems like you don't go through it once you get to a different level, but then you remember like how much shit you had to deal with. Like, I didn't see my mom for like 2 years because when she would go to work in the morning. I would get to work by about 2 p.m. and I'd be back at 11 and then she'd be sleeping by like 8. And then in the morning, I would be so tired, I wouldn't wake up until like 10 and she would be gone at 7:30. So like we literally saw each other on the weekend, even though I lived at home because it was just such a demanding schedule driving back and forth. But that's the shit you got to do. That's the shit you got to do. Yeah, just don't tell them you spent 50 grand on a watch. That's correct. If you buy a watch, don't tell people you spent that much on it. Thanks for the shout out. Today is the anniversary of when I landed here. I had 2 bags and the leasing office was closed. When I came to the apartment, I at least crashed at a shitty hotel. Man, memories. Wow. The immigrant story, right? It's the immigrant story. It's the immigrant story. Just hoping that there's a dream in America that you can chase and then working your ass off to chase it. Dude, congrats, man. Congrats for this being the anniversary of, what is it, September 18th? That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Pinnock says, I live in India and I'm 22 years old, used the foreign investment app and turned my 11,000 savings to 25,000 in 5 months. Your show was a big part of it. Thank you, man. Wow. Congrats. Dude, that's incredible. See, this is the thing, dude. This is why the American economy and the American stock market is one of the best stock markets. People across the entire world, they want to invest in these companies, which is another reason there's a perpetual bid, and it literally pays to be bullish on the US. Because for all the problems we have with debt and deficits, the best companies in the world for people like Pinnock in India that want to invest in are in the United States. And it's incredible to even have a chance to allocate there. Yeah, Jensen would call it the suffering. Dude, Jensen, there's this great interview of Jensen talking about the suffering. That remember, Jensen was a freaking busboy at Denny's. And, he went through the same shit. He went through the same shit. This is him talking about it about a year ago.
I think one of my great advantages is that I have very low expectations. and I mean that. Most of the Stanford graduates have very high expectations. You deserve to have high expectations because you came from a great school. You were very successful. You're at the top of your class. Obviously, you were able to pay for tuition. And then you're graduating from one of the finest institutions on the planet. You're surrounded by other kids that are just incredible. You naturally have very high expectations. People with very high expectations have very low resilience. And unfortunately, resilience matters in success. I don't know how to teach it to you except for I hope suffering happens to you. And I was fortunate that I grew up with my parents providing a condition for us to be successful on the one hand, but there were plenty of opportunities for setbacks and suffering. And to this day, I use the phrase pain and suffering inside our company with great glee. And I mean that. Boy, this is going to cause a lot of pain and suffering. And I mean that in a happy way because you want to refine the character of your company. You want greatness out of them. And greatness is not intelligence. Greatness comes from character, and character is informed out of smart people. It's formed out of people who suffered. And so that's it. And so if I could wish upon you, I don't know how to do it. For all of you Stanford students, I wish upon you ample doses of pain and suffering.
It's the truth, dude. It's the truth. He's not speaking some original idea. This is pretty much architected and discussed in I think not only every major religious piece of scripture, but also every philosophical text that is out there. You have to suffer to achieve the good part of life. Like to build a big business, you have to go through the pain. And the journey of that pain is what makes life worth living. If you won the lottery tomorrow, it sounds like a good idea that you made $500 million, but then you have to deal with all the shit of getting $500 million for doing nothing, which, and outside of the safety concerns, the privacy concerns, the lack of general meaning and purpose, one of the things you have to deal with is, hey, do I even deserve this? Did I work for this or did I just get lucky? And luck is involved in everything in life. But the lottery type of luck is such a profound, abstract concept of luck that it almost makes you question the entire purpose of having that money in the first place. Whereas if you worked your ass off and put every single dollar you could when you were a broke kid into a stock because you believed in that company and then that company executed, that's oh no, I deserve this. Yes, I got lucky because I was able to find the stock at the right time, but I deserve the fruits of my labor because I worked really hard to get there. And that really changes, I think, just the mental health of a lot of people when they feel they deserve to earn what they work their ass off to get. It's not easy, but the suffering has to be inevitable, especially if you're going to go for something ambitious, dude. If you're going to go for something really ambitious, you got to be ready to deal with the suffering. I mean, and what he said about expectations, I think I also really like life in and of itself is suffering. Like the very act of waking up every day and having to deal with all the shit we have to deal with, like that is suffering. But the journey of trying to embrace it is what Albert Camus talks about in his philosophy of absurdism. The journey of embracing that suffering and saying there is meaning to the suffering, or forcing yourself to feel there is meaning to that suffering, is what actually makes it more meaningful. And, you know, hopefully that mindset in general allows there to be some pathway to success. All right, let's end out the show today with listening to Steve Eisman. Again, big short guy. Let's see his thoughts on how much the Fed will cut as we get towards the end of the year.
Situation's a little weak. You know, the AI story continues. Nothing seems to be going to stop that, especially after Oracle last week, which was pretty powerful. And, you know, the Fed on the margin will do this, it'll do that, but it doesn't really matter all that much. Maybe that'll help housing. So I'm pretty bullish.
Yeah, it's interesting that for as much of the friction and the back and forth about, you know, pressure on what Fed should do, shouldn't do, kind of the data converged with people's objectives of where you ultimately wanted to get to here. And it seemed like it was more of a legitimate consensus that this is the spot we're in.
But at the end of the day, the most the Fed's going to cut at the end, I think, is 100 basis points total. And then that's it. Yeah. So, you know, this is not Moses coming down with the tablets.
Exactly. It's not make or break.
It is not an aggressive Fed cutting period. It'll be tinkering. It'll help the housing market on the margin. It's not going to drive the housing market insane. You know, people still are stuck with their 3% mortgages. So the existing homes will get unlocked a little bit, but not too much.
Older people aren't selling their houses.
They're not selling their
locked up
home.
market.
So this is, I think the economic situation is roughly the same.
What you lay out is interesting because in
all right, so Eisman's bullish. Eisman's bullish as well. So you got a lot of people right here agreeing that the rate cuts and how they have manifested themselves are more bullish than not. And I still think there is a bit more bearishness in general in the broader markets. I mean, you can just see from certain investors not believing this, kind of that most hated V-shaped rally that Tom Lee talked about, I still think is there. But you got a lot of people starting to believe, all right, the rate cuts is going to benefit most of the market. And as long as that continues, then that likely gets us to a bull market going towards the end of the year. Payush, thank you for the super chat. We are not defined by our successes. We are defined by our regrets. That is correct. And I think one of the ways to minimize regrets is to try, right? Dude, I failed at a lot of things in life. There's so many ideas I failed at. I can't even name the amount of things I've not succeeded at. But you find one or two things that works and your life changes. And same thing with stocks, right? Like there's plenty of stock. I mean, you guys know my history with Purple Biotech, PPBT. This bad boy. How much are we down all time? There you go. A nice 99.9%. I mean, I thought this company was going to change the world. That one didn't end up playing out. So yeah, it is just, but so did, you know, Jensen messed up on a bunch of things when he was early on his career. But once he found what worked, you go all in. You really go, mine was Mullen. Yeah. Like, I mean, you go all in. And I think the most important thing about this, and again, this is universal to the concept of investing, is like when you fall down, how easily can you get back up? Because I lost like 25K on Purple Biotech. I mean, that was tough for me, bro. That was basically my whole net worth at the time. And so it's like when you blow up an entire account, then I remember, you know, I was driving up and down New Jersey 60 miles a day. I would take some of that money. This was before Palantir, and I would put it into a different ticker that started with a P, which was Purple Biotech. And then you just see your income that you're freaking driving 120 miles up and down New Jersey to make dissipate because the drugs don't work, even though you thought NT219 was going to be the chemical that saves humanity. I still remember the freaking white papers I read on it. And then it doesn't work, right? So then you have to wake up the next day and say, how do I move on? How do I take my L? How do I move on? How do I go forward? How do I embrace the suffering and remember that, hey, like part of being an investor is learning that you're going to make some pretty stupid investments just like Buffett, just like Ackman, just like Tepper. All these guys made those in the early days. And moving on from it and not letting that scare you from the entire market, right? Not letting that scare you from even having a chance to one day find a company like Palantir. But it is I think is the basis of existence. Absurdism, existentialism, and nihilism. I love studying those concepts. Absurdism to me is one of the most amazing philosophies ever. For anyone who has not read the Myth of Sisyphus, I really like. I don't really give out recommendations on like philosophy and stuff that often. I don't give out recommendations for books that often, quite frankly, because I don't read a lot of books. But that's a whole different question. But like, if no one has read the Myth of Sisyphus, I really do think it's worth reading. And if you don't want to read it, I will link a YouTube video right now instead. It's probably like 15 minutes and it's even better. It's 10 minutes. Like when I listened to this philosophy from Albert Camus, changed my life. Absolutely freaking changed my life. And the basic premise of the argument is very simple. Sisyphus is a character in a story. He's cursed by the Greek gods to push a mountain or to push a rock up a mountain for the rest of his life. And that's got to be the most boring, repetitive thing ever, right? To push a mountain up for the rest of your life inside of some curse that the Greek gods have given you. Like that's got to be, you can't like, and then when the rock comes up to the mountain, the rock falls back down and then you have to do it again for the rest of your life. And the whole point of the story was, Camus was like, one would imagine Sisyphus is happy while he's pushing the rock up the mountain, because the journey of life is pushing some metaphorical rock up a mountain, and then you die, aka the rock falls down the mountain or the journey ends. And so the only way you can really be happy in life, I mean, this is one of sort of his core philosophies is, and I think it's conducive with, even if you're super religious or something like this is still applicable, is like believing that the suffering of pushing the rock up the mountain actually has value. Even if you have to like trick yourself into thinking that it has value. So if you're working some shitty job you hate right now, like tricking yourself into thinking, hey, this is just temporary. This is part of me pushing the rock up the mountain. I'm going to have a good time at work, even though I hate my boss, and I'm going to figure out how to make myself enjoy the day, which was basically me for 4 years when I was doing my consulting. That is like the process of eventually getting to the point where you can do something that you really love to do, which is what I now get to do every day. Yeah, The Stranger also, I actually read this in high school. This is also a phenomenal book by Camus. I mean, he really is one of my favorite philosophers, but like everyone is pushing up their own rock up a mountain, and everyone is trying to figure out how they can meaningfully do it. Mr. Money says, I was in a wheelchair as a kid and got addicted to pain pills and ended up shooting fentanyl. And now 10 years later, I'm clean and I'm changing my family's lives. And it means so much more because of my past. There you go. I mean, those are really tough things to deal with in life in a variety of different ways. There's someone else who's part of the channel. He's probably not in the chat right now, but he was at the Miami meetup. He was addicted to heroin for like 10 years and he ended up quitting, and Palantir was the first stock he got into. The stock market literally saved his life because he got so obsessed with Palantir that he, got the drugs out of his system. So I'm just happy we all have something that's like a form of salvation for us in terms of the market. It's one of those things that can take our minds off the other issues in life, but also humble us at the same time when you get a big red day, and also give us the euphoria of understanding why we invest in the first place. And hopefully we can keep a good philosophy on and perspective on, the ability to actually invest and find good companies. It continues to be a game changer for so many people. And we're not going to win every time. Look, it's been a good 2 years. It's been a good 2 years. I don't know if 2026 is a good year as well. And, we got to be ready if we get a bear market year. But I think we've done a lot of research on thinking, hey, do we have to have a bear market over the next couple of years? And yeah, we could. It's just there's a lot of ways that we don't need to. And whether it's up or down, we just got to be ready and prepared to deal with it. But that is the risk that we take every day. And that is why days like this become so special. It becomes very, very, very special. I'm looking forward to watching that video. I enjoy philosophical stories like the one where a farmer who has a kid that gets sick and can't go to war, but it leads to ups and downs throughout the whole story. Yeah, that video I think is a good one. And then there's a really good channel on YouTube called Pursuit of Wonder. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that one. I haven't watched the videos in a while, but when I was like around 21, 22. I used to watch the videos a lot. And they have a video on that Charles Bukowski quote. I'll put their link in the chat. That I also really love. Again, the quote is "Don't try," and it's a longer quote, but the entire argument is, "Hey, if you're going to do something, go all the way. So don't say you're trying something, like just go for it." And the analysis on that poem, yeah, right there, that's the video. I think is also phenomenal. And look, some of this stuff, look, when you're investing, a lot of this stuff matters. When it like a lot of investing is emotional and psychological and philosophical at the end of the day. Iran right there trying to come back a little bit, still down about 2.5% on the day. S&P 663, almost 664. We did hit 664.88. A lot of investing at the end of the day is how do you view the world geopolitically, economically, socially, sociologically, and then how can you stomach the way the markets are reacting to the world, especially on the bad days. Wow, Oklo 105. Okay, I'm not saying Oklo is a meme stock, but it like $15 billion market cap, no revenue, no earning. Like it's obviously getting some FOMO jump into it. Like, I don't know, dude. Whatever contracts they're getting for nuclear energy, it's got to be at least to the tune of $3-4 billion. And even then, this thing is trading at 3 times sales, which is kind of reasonable, I guess. But you got to imagine investors are thinking that they're going to get billions of dollars of energy deals, which is not that crazy to imagine because it's nuclear and we need energy. You are getting a lot of people jumping into this. Yeah, it was 70 last week. I mean, look, you don't have to say it's a meme stock, but the velocity of the move, I don't know if it's justified based on whatever press releases came out or if it's just FOMO. It might be one or the other. But $15 billion, although that's expensive for zero revenue and earnings, if they come out with $3 to $4 billion worth of deals, I mean, like, there you go. I mean, you have a multiple you can put on that that's definitely not cheap, but also it doesn't have to be like the most expensive. Which is why this one is likely moving. Is this frothy? See, again, I don't know, right? Like there's some parts of the market for sure that are maybe a little frothy. I don't know if Oklo is. I maybe this one deserves a deep dive, dude. I really, because Trump also signed plenty of executive orders that clears the way for them to get tons of new deals. And so if they get in those deals, I mean, at $15 billion, does it have to be the most expensive? Maybe not. Especially when SMR or nano nuclear, all those guys. Wow, look at that. SMR up 12% on the day as well. NNE, that one's up 6%. The entire nuclear life cycle getting some love. Is Open Door still red on the day? Open Door is red, down about 1%. Zillow, so some of these rate cut plays are taking a little bit of a beating today. Zillow's down 1%, and then Rocket Mortgage, that one is also down about 1.4%. Thoughts on ETH versus Nvidia? I mean, I'm bullish both. I don't know, dude. Gun to my head, if I had to pick one, I'd buy Nvidia because at the end of the day, it's a company I can understand better than ETH. But I feel like both in the next 4 or 5 years, Nvidia with the AI tailwind and then ETH with the crypto tailwind, along with stablecoins tokenization, the Genius Act, Clarity Act, all that stuff. I feel like having both is not too crazy. And that's where the Nvidia BMNR duo kind of come in. Bitcoin back to 117. Back to 117 on Bitcoin. Swift, thank you for the gifted 5 memberships. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Ibrahim, thank you for becoming a channel member as well. Umran, thank you for becoming a channel member. Drive Dreams, thank you for becoming a channel member. And Wood CK, thank you as well for becoming a channel member, guys. Deeply, deeply appreciate those that join the channel. Again, you don't get anything exclusive or anything like that. It's just $5 a month if you want to support the channel as well. Tab, thanks for the $10 super chat. Amit, do you have a number of net worth that you're trying to get to and then diversify, or do you plan to just keep growing? So we talked about that yesterday, which is what is your number? And I think the average of all of the numbers that I saw in the chat is basically 5 million from what I saw. So I don't know if that's necessarily my number, but I think everyone does need to have a number. And I think, you know, the number should be ambitious enough where you think you can achieve it, but it's also not unrealistic enough, right? Like if I say, oh, by 40, I want to be a billionaire. It's like, I don't know, dude. I got 12 years. I don't know if I could be a billionaire by 40. But if you say, you know, I want to get to 10, 20 million by 40. Like that's also really freaking hard, and you're going to have to do very well. But is that practical? I think that's a little bit more practical than saying you get to $1 billion. So I feel like the goal has to be ambitious, but not so out of reach that whatever steps you take can't get there. But I think most people comfortably 5 million, you're very comfortable. 10 million, probably you're good for the rest of your life. And those are the numbers that most people care about. Thoughts on Misty? Well, MicroStrategy is moving a little bit, so Misty should be getting some. Yeah, there you go, Misty back above 16. Again, I know people think like these ETFs are a scam. I just don't believe that. The underlying has to perform for the yield max to perform. And so MicroStrategy has not performed, which is why Misty hasn't performed. And you have to know that if you're buying Misty. You have to know that if you're buying the Nvidia yield max or the Palantir, you just have to know the underlying is associated with the cover call strategy on the yield max. So Strategy's up 6% on the day. Misty's up 4%. If Strategy can get back to 400, I think Misty probably gets back to 20. My cost basis is 21. And so it all really depends on MicroStrategy. At least that's how I think about it. 5 million net assets is not enough in Southern California. Yeah, and again, it also depends on where you live. It's also very important. Stocks or net worth. I was thinking more net worth. Well, so the problem is you can't include the house in the net worth, right? Because it's not as liquid. So I guess I would say liquid assets more than anything. Southern California, 5 million is your house value. Yeah, that's right. Dude, that's the thing, dude. Like I'm saying 5, 10 million right now is what kind of most people are thinking. But in 10 years with inflation itself, like $1 million is still a big deal. 100K is still a big deal. I wonder if the new quote unquote 100K becomes $1 million in 10 years. And that's what people like really strive for versus just that first 100,000, just due to inflation alone. And so definitely these targets will potentially change. But the point is, we're all doing it together as a community. We're all here together. It's been a good year. Hopefully we can end out as a good year. We got the rate cuts. That's what we needed. And markets are very dynamic. Things move every second of every day. Retail is a massive force in the markets now. And I think retail working together to try to really find these names is super important. It's not easy to do. It's very special when you actually are able to find them. That's what we'll keep doing every single day. Every single day, we will keep doing it. All right, folks, I think that's it for me. We'll get the market closed today. Do we have any earnings at all today? Oh, we have FedEx today. Okay, that'll be a big one, especially for the consumer. This stock is, I think, not done well over the past year. Yeah, down 17% this year. So we'll take a look at that and we'll see what we got to do. We'll see what we got to do. Do you think 200,000 can get to 2 million in 10 years? Yes, but not through the S&P, right? If you're looking for like the 10, 20x returns, it's got to either be through leverage, through options, or through owning your own business where you're able to have a majority equity stake and you can then sell some of that equity stake to be able to get a decent return on capital, not the S&P. So it's tough, right? Because the S&P will increase that 200K. It's just, I don't know if it gets it to 2 million in 10 years. But that's also why we invest in individual stocks, right? Like one of the goals in individual stocks is to try to find names that are deeply undervalued that hopefully if you take a sizable position in can really pay off. But it's hard to do that, right? And that's why we're here every day trying to do that. Siege, thank you for the $20. It is an incredible privilege to see a true genius at work on a daily basis. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Siege, for being here. I would be very, very hesitant to call myself anywhere near a true genius. I'm just really passionate about the markets and really passionate about communicating. And I genuinely enjoy the creative aspect of it. So I would not say that's a genius by any means, but I really do enjoy this. And, I think people feel how much I enjoy this, which is why they enjoy the content as well. Uber Short, thank you for the $50 super chat. All my projections for my retirement are soon have changed in the last year with your community. Thanks, Amit and all. Thank you, sir, for being here. And thank you for being here every day and congrats on being close to retirement. Because my mom she's like, 4 years away? My dad should be retired right now. And I wish he would retire soon. But my dad's probably 2 years away. My mom's about 4 years away. And, now that my mom's discovered the market, she has a whole different perspective. I mean, she was thinking her pension was going to be the only thing. And, now she's discovered that, she doesn't have to just rely on her pension. And that's a really, really autonomous, self-fulfilling idea that your pension, the place you worked at for 30 years, isn't the only way you're going to be able to survive. Social Security isn't the only way. You have other options, even if you're older. And the most liquid option in the world is the market, which has definitely helped a lot of people and definitely changed a lot of people's perspectives on retirement as well. All right, word of the day. What do we got? Word of the day. What the heck is this? I have never seen this word before. Intelligentsia?
Intelligentsia.
Intellectuals considered as an elite group or class. Okay, I am definitely not in the intelligentsia class of society. During the war, many members of the intelligentsia were forced into exile. Judith rejected the idea that she was part of the intelligentsia, referring to her as a regular teacher and community member. Yeah, bro, I barely know how to speak words, so I would not say I'm part of the intelligentsia part of society. That's a like complicated word for just saying someone's smart. It's an overly complicated word. Trump is live. Is he actually live, or are you guys trolling? Is he actually live? I think you guys are trolling. Yeah, you guys are trolling. He's not live. He is going to be live at 1. I think Jose is going to be streaming it, but he's not live now. All right, I think that is it. Sumit, thank you for the $5 super chat. Thanks for your daily effort. Sumit, again, thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here every single day. It means a lot, and getting to do this every single day is super important. I think we are closing in on that 100K. We did cross 250 last night on Twitter, which very, very grateful for. Yeah, we're about 200 away on YouTube to get to 100K. So that'll be fun. That'll be exciting, and then we'll celebrate and move on. We'll celebrate for a day, and then we'll move on and just get back to work. We'll keep going from there. There is a headline, even if Trump is not live right now, something with Lisa Cook. Trump asks Supreme Court to let him fire Lisa Cook. Oh, wow. Okay, so Lisa Cook, again, one of the Fed governors. Yeah, looks like Trump just asked the Trump administration asked U.S. Supreme Court to allow president's firing. Wow, it's going to the Supreme Court, folks. It's going to the Supreme Court. Okay, so not only are the tariffs going to the Supreme Court, because remember, the tariffs were ruled illegal by the District Appeals Court. Now Lisa Cook. I wonder what the Supreme Court's going to say. If they give Trump the authority to fire her, I wonder what precedent that sets for the independence of the Fed. You're definitely going to have some people questioning that. I don't think it really is going to affect the market that much outside of getting another dove to be a Fed governor. But it looks like we're going to see what the Supreme Court says over time. There you go. All right, folks, that is it. SoFi right here, 2776, AMD 154, S&P 662, Hoodie 122, Grab at 630, Nvidia 175.65, and then Palantir at 174.2 on the day. All right, that is it. I will see you guys in a few hours. We will keep going from there. We got FedEx earnings after the bell. Thursday, we'll get a money market fund update and see what's going on with that. And we'll keep going from there. All right. Thank you, everybody. Again, deeply, deeply appreciate everyone being here every single day, morning and afternoon. It really just means the world to me. And obviously, I'm very excited to do this every day. I'm also happy I'm not traveling, so I can be in the routine every day and just do what I love to do. And I'm very grateful that people show up every day to be here with the content. All right. I'll see you guys in a few hours. Thank you, everybody. See you in a bit.